chances of that thing starting? Oh, like, very likely. Just freak out. Hey, guinea pigs. Brush, brush. Hello. Yep, I did. Just me rambling. I don't expect many people to see this. Yeah. I totally forgot I normally do this on Mondays. We're doing it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Be wary, there are spoilers. Spoilers. Ooh. Nobody saw the spoilers. No one saw it. I've been working on a little thing this morning and yesterday. I don't know if it'll become anything. It's just me having a little fun. Just me having a little fun. I don't know if it'll be anything. It doesn't need to be anything. It's just fine. 25. Oh my goodness. Be our guest. Yeah. 15. 18. 23. 24. Yeah. 25. Coming right up. There we are. We made it. Alright, we should get right into this. Tell a story. Read about 10 chapters and yeah. This is a long book. And the one that I'm working on, I don't know how long it's going to be. But probably not as long. Probably not as long. But yeah. This is like a full-fledged novel at this point. Yeah. Let's get right into it. It's also warm in here, and I turned off the fan because otherwise that would be noisy, which is going to be fun. Right, Gunny Box? Right. They also just got a banana too, so they're very happy. Yeah. Yeah? You're happy, Biggie. You already got your yummy. 2 yummies, in fact. Alright, chapter 25. Impulse found himself at the chasm again, seeing the ravine below opening its jaws to show the void, the darkness inside murky, appearing bottomless as he sat on the edge of the chasm, a dark stone wall behind him. He looked up at the starry night sky, feeling a strange calmness wash over him, seeing the other side of the chasm, now dark, almost gray. It was like the landscape was withering, dying. Its once green grass was now a dirty, dull, dried brown. Its luscious, sparse trees are empty of leaves, arching their branches toward the void above. Galaxy-like strands soared above him, yet he knew they weren't stars. They were links, the bond he shared with his friends. A lump formed in his throat. How had he seen this now? This place looked so very different from the last time he'd been here. Shrouded in darkness or covered in instantone, a barren wasteland, as the roar of a dragon could be heard overhead. Here, there was no wasteland. There was no dragon. In fact, he felt safe here, almost at home. Was he home? Nothing about the landscape around him was familiar, yet it was all too familiar. It wasn't anything from his memories, yet still able to construct themselves into some sort of reality. A place away from all the dangers and threats, where Campbell couldn't reach him, where Julius would never find him. Was Skiz here? Was he dreaming? This couldn't be real, could it? He shook the thought of it out of his mind. No, this wasn't real. It couldn't be. Skiz wasn't here. He was gone. Long gone. Tears brimmed in the hermit's eyes as he looked up into the sky, an image flickering into view like a television screen. He could see Skiz and himself sitting around the dying light of a campfire, on their sleeping bags, looking up into the night sky. How many stars do you think there are, buddy? Skiz asked him with a wild grin. Probably a lot, Impulse admitted in a memory. I dare you to count them. Skiz insisted, resting his weight on his arm, his piercing blue eyes seeming to glow in the dim light. I can't possibly count them all, Impulse replied in surprise. Come on, it'll be fun. I'll even do it with you, Skiz said eagerly. Last person to fall asleep gets to pick what to eat in the morning. What we get in the morning. How's that sound? Deal. Impulse nodded, feeling himself return a sad nod to the memory as it faded away. A tear strayed from his eye. The wrong word. Slipping down his cheek as he wiped it away. I didn't think you'd be here, a new voice said from behind as Hermit heard his footsteps approached. Impulse jumped, catching himself before he fell off the ledge into the chasm. As he turned, getting to his feet, when he saw a figure approaching. Scar? Seeing the smirk on his friend's face, Scar's green eyes seemed to gleam in some sort of contentment. I don't know, I just showed up after passing out in the machine, Scar said brightly, before he frowned. The last thing I remember was the glass cylinder opening, and then I opened my eyes and found this place. I guess that makes sense, Impulse nodded, looking up into the void. Wait, are we talking right now? Aren't we supposed to be? Scar tilted his head. Or do you prefer something like this? Impulse smiled. I didn't know you could do that. Dazzled. Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? Scar grinned. The window is open. Bye-bye, plane. Your thoughts can echo pretty far out here, but if you want to talk one-on-one, you could. Is that how you found me? Impulse asked ponderingly. It's kind of hard not to notice, Scar admitted, looking him up and down. You're like a waterfall of sadness right now. Sorry, Impulse slumped his shoulders. I've been through a lot, with losing Skiz and waiting for you and not knowing when Julius or one of the Campbell's men might show up again out of nowhere. Scar put a hand on his shoulder. Impulse moved his eyes up to meet the hermit's. Do you want to take a walk with me? I'm sure it'll be fun. Impulse nodded, deciding he'd rather get as far away from the chasm as he could. It held too many bad memories. He'd rather keep away. Another memory started to flutter into view as he looked away. Hearing Scar's screams of agony from above, Scar gently pushed him away from the image, lowering his hand from his shoulder as they continued walking. How are you feeling after what happened? Impulse finally asked, departing the dark, ominous rocks. The hermit's finding a dirt path that led toward a field of flowers, with a thin forest of trees beyond. I don't remember much, Scar shrugged, as if it was a normal way to answer a question like that. Just the pain at first, ripping through my entire body, but eventually it all went away, and I just felt numb. Numb? Impulse tilted his head. I just couldn't feel the pain as much after a while, when I was freed from that machine. Scar shook his head. Seeing really more than that. So you're not feeling any pain? Impulse frowned. No, not physical pain anyway. Scar smiled sheepishly. Maybe a headache, but it's not like my body is on fire. Impulse shuddered. I hated that. What they did. Scar kept his expression calm. It wasn't fun. Certainly not. But you're okay? I'm as okay as I can be. Impulse smiled weakly. So, Kiss is really gone? Scar asked sadly. Impulse nodded his head solemnly. Unfortunately, yes. Julius, his voice caught the words as tears began to fall from his eyes. Julius is a jerk. Jerk or not, still a kid looking for his father's approval. One that's never coming. How do you know that? Impulse said skeptically. I had a chat with him after you kidnapped me. Sky said, smiling calmly. He wanted to know if I knew anything that could be useful, and I struck up a chat with him about it. We were talking about family, and we'd do whatever it took to protect them. He looked sad as he added, we had something in common. So do you, with him. Impulse shook his head. This kid is the same man who helped kidnap, beat up, tortured Tango, tried to kill me on multiple occasions, and he killed my best friend. Broken or not, he's still a murderer. We all are in a way. Scar continued, walking down the path, stopping by a picnic blanket in the shade of a tall oak tree. Picnic basket leaned against the trunk, overflowing with a variety of foods, meats, fruits, vegetables, and some pastries. Too many people, innocent people, have lost their lives in this war. I sighed. Why are we even still fighting? It won't stop. They're too angry and hurt. Scar took a seat on the blanket, nodding beside him encouraging him to sit. Impulse obliged. We're fighting to survive just as much as they are. Not all of those men out there want to keep fighting. On both sides. I know. Impulse bit his bottom lip. Skis wanted to see a change, to do something different. What we're doing isn't working. People are still getting hurt. Still. We'll find a way. Scar smiled gently. Maybe with a hug, or maybe not. They'll get what they deserve. I know. We want the same thing. Why not fight for that? Impulse nodded. I want to see that, but I just can't. Not after seeing what Gerald did to you and what Julius did to Tango. Skiz. Not after losing Xavier, Devin. I can't lose anyone else. I don't want to lose anyone else either. Scar assured him, giving him a side hug. You're strong. Far stronger than you think you are. Even with Skiz's help. You made it out of there. You survived. Soon? I'll thrive. Being able to have some sense of normalcy again. I wonder sometimes if that day will ever come. Impulse bit at the bottom lip. Again. It will. Scar said confidently. I believe. Impulse nodded, resting his head on Scar's shoulder. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything more to help you. Stop them from hurting you. Don't blame yourself for something you can't control. Scar said firmly, his eyes meeting the hermit's. I know I'm safe, thanks to you. How do you know you're with Matthias? Did you hear him? Impulse saw the hermit nod. There are times when I'm semi-conscious to hear him talking on the communicator. Scar said quietly, We're in some sort of cave, I think. From what I can make out. Matthias wants to get us back to the base sooner rather than later. I'll be ready for you when you arrive. Impulse smiled, pulling away from his friend. Looking forward to it, Scar agreed. I knew you were still on our side. You have a heart of gold, Impulse chuckled, feeling his his cheeks warm as he looked away, hearing his friend giggling beside him. He was saved from embarrassment when he heard the sound of an explosion behind him. Birds scattered into the air with screeches, some of them ablaze with flame as they glowed in the night. He sat. Impulse stumbled to his feet, horrified by what he saw. He wasn't able to hear a response. Hearing the faint sound of a familiar scream, a plea for help that sent him running toward the flames. Impulse could feel the heat of the flames on his face. Oh, chapter 26, my apologies. On his face, seeing the bright light consuming the trees before them. It looked to be a wall of fire, reaching high up into the sky. It wasn't a large wall, but it was impossible to see through it. Gran! Gran, we're here! Impulse cried, skidding to a stop to keep himself from getting burned. Could they get burned? What would happen if they died in this reality? This sort of dream world? He wasn't about to stand around right now. What's going on? How is that possible? Scar looked up at the flames, his eyes transfixed. Aw, some sort of nightmare, and Grian's trapped inside, Impulse said calmly. He heard another scream within the fire, grabbing for Scar's arm in case he tried to run into the flames. He didn't, but the hermit's face looked uneasy. How do we get him out? Scar frowned, his eyes moving from fire to Impulse. Impulse frowned, looking at the flames. He could feel the hint of fear and agony, feel the searing pain through the flames. He was pretty sure if he tried to reach out his mental hand now, it would burn him. The fire was too hot. We need to calm it down somehow, Impulse assessed thoughtfully. He looked up at the sky above, the void of stars with living galaxies above. He let go of Scar's arm, remembering how Skiz had shot down the flying scorpions with arrows of light. Could it be possible he could do something similar? If only he knew how he'd done it. Again, perhaps the answer was right there in front of him. He closed his eyes, imagining a cloud forming over the flames, raining down a calm reassurance, like an embrace. He heard a gasp beside him as someone grabbed his hand. "It's working!" Scar proclaimed with excitement. Impulse opened his eyes, seeing a large storm cloud above them, hovering over the fire as golden rain began to fall. Each drop that hit the earth evaporated the flames as the fire recoiled. A cold breeze washed past him. That's a call. How are you doing that? I guess anything you can imagine is possible in this weird dimension, Impulse replied. He stepped forward, unafraid of the fire. It shrunk back, starting to die out into golden embers of ash. Grian? No, please no. A thought whimpered, echoing through the void. Impulse took another step as a lump formed in his throat. It's okay, you're okay, Impulse called out, starting to see a form huddled in the middle of a group of ashen black trees. Impulse and Scar both broke out into a run as they caught up to the figure. Everything's gone, everything. Grian's thoughts shuddered in pain. Impulse fell to his knees, seeing Grian beside him, his face streaked with tears, ash, long, dried stains on his clothing. Impulse put a hand on his friend's shoulder as Grian's eyes snapped open, looking up at them with fear before being flooded with relief. Impulse, Scar! He tackled Impulse into a hug as the hermit held him tight, Scar joining in as the hermit sobbed in Impulse's shoulder. It's okay, I got you. Impulse whispered, part of him not wanting to let go. It's just a dream. We're with you now. But how? How did you find me? How did... Grian pulled away from his friends, looking around at his surroundings. How did I get here? I have a theory. A game theory. Impulse said calmly. Basically, we're all connected in some sort of dimension. This sort of dimension. The dream dimension. I first discovered this place after getting infected with the chorus flower. I guess whenever we're sleeping, we come here as a way to feel safe, or take a break from whatever trouble happened before. Grian nodded. So you saw my nightmare? Sort of, Impulse replied. We saw the flames and heard you, but we didn't know what was happening. Grian shuddered, nodding his head, wiping tears from his eyes. He turned to look at Scar. How did you find your way here? I just showed up here after what happened. Scar shrugged. I think my brain needed a break from all that pain and agony. Grian swallowed, looking over his shoulder nervously. I don't think this place is always like this. Looks like this. No, Impulse agreed, getting to his feet, offering his hand to the hermit. It's different for other people, depending on what's happening. What did you see? Scar asked, before we found you. Everything was on fire. Everyone was gone. Grian took Impulse's hand and stumbled to his feet. Scar stood as well. Campbell started it. Lost. Everyone lost. We haven't lost yet, Impulse said firmly, putting a hand on his friend's shoulder. They won't win. How can you know that? How can we know anything? Grian demanded, pulling away from his friend's gesture. No one really wins in war. Scar nodded, his eyes soft and gentle. Maybe our goal isn't to win by destroying them. I don't think this will ever end, Grian sighed. Even if we did find a way to bring peace, someone will rise up and put our lives in danger again. I'm tired of this. Me too, Impulse agreed. The starlit void above. We can't stop now, no matter how much we want to. Skiz want us to keep fighting, to not give up, He'd want us to do the right thing. We've come too far to quit now. How are we gonna do that? Green asked with uncertainty. Impulse smiled sadly. I don't know yet. It'll come to us eventually. Scar beamed happily, starting back to the way they'd come. There's a lovely spot to look at the stars over here. Impulse chuckled, following his friend. Green not too far behind. Green seemed to have relaxed somewhat, recovering from whatever horrors he'd seen moments earlier. There was so much they didn't know about this place. But that didn't matter now. What mattered was that they were here, together. He'd fight for his friends, as Skis had. He wouldn't give up. Couldn't. Not now. Not when there was still too many lives at risk. Chapter 27. Impulse was awoken by the sound of rustling. Opening his eyes to see that it was barely even the crack of dawn, he blinked, realizing a moment later that it wasn't the only light he could see. The door was open. He slowly sat up, seeing a couple of figures in the corner of the room. Is everything okay? Impulse asked quietly as the two figures went quiet, seeing Beat-ups climbing out of the sleeping bag as Isaac got to his feet. The boy had a serious expression on his face. You're a light sleeper, Beat-ups teased with a whisper, including a wide smile. His gray eyes twinkled slightly in the light of the hallway. We can talk outside, Isaac said in a hushed tone. I don't want to wake anyone else up. What's going on? Impulse climbed out of his sleeping bag, careful not to wake Green, who had been sleeping beside him. The hermit was still fast asleep. Impulse was relieved to see he wasn't plagued by any more nightmares. Isaac didn't say anything, gesturing for the hermit to head to the door. Impulse followed, stepping carefully over Tango and Jem, who had pulled their sleeping bags towards the door. They arrived at the hallway. Beat-ups already outside, looking back to the room. The hallway was somewhat empty, as Impulse looked back inside, seeing Blake sleeping in the back corner, beside an empty sleeping bag where Isaac had probably been. Isaac had a call from Liam just now. Beat-ups frowned, answering the hermit's question. At this hour? Impulse raised an eyebrow. Why? Something wrong? Liam said he'd gotten a warning from an anonymous source about a potential attack, Isaac said, closing the door behind him. After hearing from us about that new infection, he wants to prepare. Impulse nodded solemnly. How long is it going to take? I don't know. Isaac shook his head, pulling something out of his pocket. Impulse blenched, seeing the dagger in the boy's hand. There was still specks of dried blood on the gleaming iron, including the dark purple poison that menacing in the lamplight. Isaac quickly put it away, seeing the expression on the hermit's face. Liam wanted to see this, so I thought I'd bring it to him. I asked Beat-ups if he wanted to come, in case he could help in some way. I'll be okay, Beat-ups said confidently, no doubt reading the concern on the other hermit's face. Beat-ups patted his pocket firmly, where the communicator he stashed was resting. I've got 2 strong protectors at my side. Nothing bad will happen. Impulse nodded. Even with the best, I know what those portals are capable of. It can't Campbell decides to attack the school. We don't know if he will, Isaac replied calmly, resting a hand on the hermit's shoulder. The warning could have been for anything. He might not think the school was worth attacking. Sure, Impulse said nervously. Just be careful, okay, Bubbles? If there's trouble, I'll let you know. Beat-ups grinned encouragingly before the smile melted away. A sad look appeared on the hermit's face. Beat-ups walked over to the hermit, giving him a hug. I'll be okay, trust me. I do. Impulse's bottom lip quivered. I know. Beat-ups pulled away. You don't want anyone to get hurt. Neither do I. If Campbell does decide to attack, I'll do my best to make sure everyone is safe. Impulse smiled sadly. I know you will. Won't let anything happen to him, Isaac replied matter-of-factly to the hermit. It's the least I can do. Impulse nodded, looking toward the stairs. Do you want me to walk you down to the main room to see you off? It won't stop you. Isaac smiled knowingly. Caleb probably wouldn't mind extra company. Did Caleb have an all-nighter downstairs by himself? Impulse tilted his head. More or less, Isaac shrugged. He wants to be ready to help Matthias and Scar when they get back. Come on, we need to go if we want to get there before classes start, Beat-ups teased, inching toward the stairwell nonchalantly. Isaac laughed. We got plenty of time before then. Smiled, following his friends toward the stairs, climbing down, seeing Caleb fast asleep on the couch near the window. Communicator sitting on the table nearby. The hermit arrived at the stairs and Beat-Ups opened the front door, dawning on his wings, securing them firmly before taking out his rockets. Is it okay if I call you for check-ins tonight? Impulse asked Hermit curiously. Of course it is, Beat-Ups giggled, giving him a thumbs up. I'm always one call away if you ever need to talk. Anytime. Impulse chuckled. See you later, then. Tell Scar I said hi, Beat-Ups proclaimed, launching himself into the sky. Isaac shook his head, a smile on his face. The young man wished the hermit well before disappearing off into the early morning sky. Impulse watched as they disappeared over the tree line, spotting Caden on top of the wall, with Scar's extra escort scouting the perimeter. He closed the door behind him, walking into the main room before taking a seat in an armchair beside the couch, where Caleb slept. Chapter 28. Yeah. Impulse looked up at the ceiling of the main room, the early morning sky turning bright blue slowly but surely. A couple of hours had passed since Beat-Ups and Isaac had disappeared into that same sky. He hadn't heard the urgent call for help from his mind, or the communicator at the time, so he had to assume things had gone well. Scar, are you awake? Impulse asked in his mind, reaching out to his friend's link. He didn't hear a reply as he called again. His attention was directed when he heard a soft groan beside him. He turned his head, seeing Caleb was stirring. Impulse waited, seeing the boy sitting up on the couch as he went to wipe the sleep from his eyes. Did I fall asleep? Caleb yawned sleepily, dusting Impulse watching him. You were asleep when I came down here, Impulse said with a shrug. You must have been tired. Yeah. Caleb sighed, shaking his head. That happens when you don't know where your judge is. Impulse smiled sadly. Matthias hasn't called yet, if that's what you're wondering. Do you know anything? I heard you could read each other's minds. Caleb looked hopeful. Since last night. Impulse shook his head. I'm sure they'll be here soon. Caleb nodded, putting his feet on the floor. How have you been lately? I've been doing all right. Impulse smiled sheepishly. As good as one can be after losing someone they care about. I get it. Caleb's face fell. It was fun to be around. Impulse nodded, looking down at the floor, not meeting the boy's eyes. How have you been? I'm okay, the boy replied quietly. I wish I could have been there to stop Julius from doing what he did. Disguise or Scar? Impulse looked up. I guess both. Caleb bit his bottom lip. I was outside with Caden when the tower exploded. I heard Green scream and saw someone disappear into the trees. When I tried to go after them, they were gone. There's always next time, Impulse smiled weakly. Yeah, Impulse. Caleb nodded with some reluctance. Trying to keep up with Scar isn't easy, though. No, Impulse agreed with a chuckle. You did a good job at it, though. Really? Caleb's eyes widened. You think so? I do, the hermit replied. We're glad you're here. Caleb smiled. Tears filled the boy's eyes. Thank you. Just not as good as a fighter like Blake or Isaac. Or even Caden. I was never all that great in my classes. Just average. Hello, Birdie. So, I'm not a good fighter either. Doesn't stop me from trying. Ella formed in Naramis' throat. Never stops kids either. Yeah, Caleb replied calmly. He rolled his shoulders back. I won't let it stop me. For skids, He what? Impulse smiled sadly. He asked me to take care of everyone. To make sure nothing happened to them. I guess Isaac and Beat-Ups are kind of doing that. Where did they go? And Caleb asked curiously. Liam asked him to stop by the school. Impulse frowned. He needed some help over there, and wanted to see that poison that Julius used to. He'll find a way to combat it, Caleb said confidently. We'll figure this out, right? Do we really have a choice? Impulse sighed. I probably have a target on my back now. Campbell didn't seem to like what you... Excuse me. Campbell didn't seem to like campbell didn't seem like he was done with me yet. Caleb shuddered, got to his feet, walking over to the hermit. And let's make sure that doesn't happen. Impulse nodded, looking out the window. No, to meet someone. Impulse stood, pulling back the blinds, squinting as he recognized Matthias. The man was carrying something. No, someone. They're home. Impulse looked back at Caleb, who immediately went for the front door. Stay inside and by the window. Caleb cautioned quickly, so we can see you. Impulse nodded. Be careful. Caleb grinned at the hermit. I'm always careful. It's part of the job description. Impulse laughed, seeing the boy run out the door. Meeting Matthias, the man began walking towards Jem's base. Impulse watched as Caleb took Scar from his arms. The hermit still sound asleep. His friend didn't seem to be visibly harmed, although his middle section was wrapped with bandages. The hermit watched as Caleb drew closer to the base, seeing the expression of calm on the boy's face. Impulse felt a sense that someone was watching him. As he looked away, meeting Matthias' eye, the man gave him a simple nod before heading towards the front entrance again. Chapter 20. We made it half an hour. Wait. Oh. The bird is tweeting. Just chilling. Impulse opened the bedroom door, peeking inside as saw most of his friends were still sound asleep. Sunlight was attempting to pour into the room as he opened the door the rest of the way. Caleb stood behind him, carrying Scar in his arms. Scar. Green's whisper broke the silence. Impulse looked over, seeing the hermit sitting up, wide awake, as he scrambled to get out of the sleeping bag, pulling back the covers of the nearby bed. Impulse smiled, walking up into the room, getting out of the boy's way as Caleb maneuvered around the other sleeping occupants. Matthias said he'll wake up soon. Caleb said calmly, laying the hermit on the bed. Scar let out a groan. I guess she'll be hungry. You got that taken care of, Impulse replied confidently. The boy smiled. Of course you do. I'm surprised no one tried to stop them, Impulse frowned. Seeing as how if they wanted one of us, no doubt we'd have been ambushed by her already. Well, that's not their plan, Caleb reminded him. Right, Julius likes to work hard, fast and hard, Impulse replied. He caught me off guard in my room. He got Tango by surprise in his workshop. If he had access to the cameras, all it would take would be waiting for one of us to be alone. Not always, Green said quietly, reaching for Scar's hand, taking it in his own. Guessing he'd given himself a potion of strength before attacking us in the tower. He was too strong. Impulse sighed. Caleb cleared his throat. I'll go check on it to see who has access to the cameras if it makes you feel better. If it'll make you feel better. It's better to be safe than sorry, Impulse nodded, crossing the room as well. I agree. Green lifted his chin, looking up to the other hermit. We'll be okay here. I know, Caleb smiled, heading toward the door. Give me all if you need anything, okay? Any of you. Yes, sir, Impulse replied, the boy closing the door behind him. Impulse watched Liam and let go of Scar's hand, heading for the seat next to the bed, sitting down. They said nothing more. Impulse heading to the nearby chest, searching for a spare soup to give to Scar when he woke up. It wouldn't be long before the others would too. Impulse stepped down from the stool, finishing the rest of the cameras in the hallway. Plural. It's plural. Looking up at his handiwork. He spent about an hour or two adding motion sensors to detect someone was invisible or to detect a flash of light from a portal. Every camera in Jim's base had one now as he smiled at his work. That's the last of them? Tango asked behind him, stepping down from another camera. Impulse turned to his friend and nodded. Should be. No chances of someone sneaking in through that way. Impulse frowned. Next probably would be adding a secure lock to all the windows, so they can't just unlock them like before. Right. Tango agreed with a grin. You want to get started on that or take a break? Our enemies never take breaks. Impulse sighed, shaking its head. That's true, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't, Pearl's voice said from one of the rooms as the door opened. You two have been working on this for hours. I'm sure Jem and I could come up with something for the windows and doors. Not really redstone heavy anyway. Speaking of Jem, where is she? Tango perked up. I thought she'd be with you. She wanted to check on Green and Scar. See how Scar's injuries are coming along, Pearl said brightly. Doubt I'd be an easy target anyway. Impulse chuckled. Nothing strange going on, though? Not from what I could see, she shrugged. No sign of trouble. I should probably see how B-Dubs is doing then, Impulse said reluctantly, with a smile, pulling out his communicator. Just knowing there's a potential threat to the school isn't helping much either. Pearl smiled knowingly. I'm sure they can handle it. Yeah, I'm sure they have it under control, especially if B-Dubs is there, Tinko said confidently, walking over to Impulse. He rested a hand on his friend's shoulder. Impulse looking down at the device, pocketing it again before looking up at his friends. Liam's tough as well. He cares about those kids, Pearl encouraged. He won't let them get in harm's way. Impulse nodded, reassured by her words. He knew she was right. Liam had helped them a bunch over the past few months. It's not over a year at this point, providing anything that they needed. No doubt B-Dubs wanted to repay the favor. We could help too, you know. We could, Pearl agreed. But I think there's a reason why Liam wanted B-Dubs and Isaac to come. It's less conspicuous that we suspect something. But we'll be there if they need help back up. We will? Impulse looked up. Doc finished the portal machine this morning. Dick agreed with a smile. That sentence is a bit redundant. That sentence is a bit redundant. Tango grinned. We can be right there in the action if need be. Right, of course. Impulse nodded with a smile. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Time will tell, Pearl agreed with a grin. Again with the greeting. We've got a plan. We did this together. I know, Impulse nodded. He met her gaze, seeing her sparkling teal eyes, full of energy and life, full of excitement and mischief. Before he could say more to either of them, "Do you have a minute? Scar wants to speak with you." Scar's awake? Impulse's eyes widened. Seeing the look on her expression was calm, unmoving. He looked over at Tango, who nodded in encouragement. Pearl and I will take care of the window situation, Tango said simply. Let me know if you need help, Impulse said with a quick nod, jogging down the hall, coming to a stop in front of Jem. Is everything okay? Yeah. Jem nodded with a small smile, stepping aside. Impulse could see Korean by the window, looking outside. The curtains were pulled back, letting the light shine into the room. Impulse could see Scar sitting up in bed, a grin on his face when he saw the hermit. Scar opened his arms out to the hermit, exposing his bare chest. Took me a lot of effort to sit up. Can I have a hug? Impulse grinned, crossing the room, embracing his friend. Scar let out a contented sigh as the hermit closed his eyes. I'm glad you're here. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Scar chuckled, pulling away. Good to see you again. It really is, Impulse agreed, looking over at Green, who hadn't said anything. Something you want to talk to me about. Well, Scar trailed off, looking over at Jem hesitantly. Maybe Jem should explain first. Are you sure? Jem frowned. Scar gave her a silent nod. She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. Green and I were replacing the bandages when we noticed something. She crossed the room as Scar scooted a little bit. Impulse followed where she pointed a moment later. Most of these punctures have healed, but I spotted one of them pierce through Scar's spine here. Impulse took a closer look. Goodbye, plane. Goodbye. Impulse took a closer look, sure enough seeing a small scar on the hermit's spine, along with others beside it, creating a dotted pattern on the hermit's lower back. You said you felt numb to me in the dream world after this happened. He looked up at Scar. Wait, you spoke with him in your dream? Jem gasped in surprise. I'm as new at this as he is. I'm as new at it as he is, Scar giggled. But yeah, after a little while I couldn't feel any pain. And now you can't feel anything from noise down, she frowned, checking the injury again. Mm-hmm, Scar smiled sadly. Do you think Gerald did that on purpose? Gurney! Are we out of water again? Are we out of water? Is that what you're trying to say? Oh, poor Bobby. Hang on. Let me fix that up. Oh, we are. I'll be right back. You're welcome. That's how you know when the guinea pigs are out of water. Do you think Gerald did that on purpose? Grian squeaked nervously, speaking for the first time. Impulse almost missed it. I don't know, Jem bit her bottom lip. Nothing I do is helping. Messiahs gave him plenty of healing and regen, but even that isn't fixing the problem. It's more neurological than physical, Impulse replied, swallowing. Potions have limits, you know. Can't solve everything. A sad expression fell in her face. I'm sorry, Scar. Don't apologize, Scar smiled at her encouragingly. It's still good to be out here. I'm alive, after all. That's true, Impulse nodded. We can't let them learn about this, Karina replied quickly. There's no telling what they'll do if they learn they can permanently paralyze us. It's okay, Karina, Scar said calmly. We'll stop them before they can. How? Green demanded. I don't know, Impulse admitted. Pearl and Tango seem to have a plan, at least. Jem nodded. Impulse is right. There's a likely chance Campbell might target school, as it is an important place to the cause, a safe haven for kids who have their lives stripped from them. We need to prepare in case they need our help, or if that's not the only plan they have. Impulse swallowed. What? For some reason, Campbell has decided he wants you, Jem replied simply. Her eyes locked on Impulse. He believes you're easy to manipulate, that you're weak. Sees you as an easier target than someone like Tango, or Doc, or even Mumbo. So you think he might attack the base? Green's face went pale. It's always a possibility, Jem frowned. I should probably check in with Rose to see how things are going. Not alone, Impulse said quickly, before smiling. She smiled as well. I never said I had to be, she pulled out her communicator, glancing at Scar to add. First, you wanted to ask about something. All right, I totally forgot, Scar giggled. Impulse met Hermit's gaze. Is there a possibility you could get moving around again somehow? I think I can do more than that. Impulse nodded, his mind already grinding his gears. He is floating in his mind. I'll make you a formidable foe again, hat guy. Cigar grinned. Good. When can you get ready? I'm not sure, Impulse smiled, heading for the door. But I'll let you know when I'm done. The smile on Hermit's face was all Impulse needed to see. Looking over at Jem, and she dialed some coordinates, how the device came to life. I don't know, I just had a fascination with writing perspectives of Redstone geniuses. Just something about that, just the geekiness, I guess, the nerdiness. Maybe that's why I enjoy people like Snappy or Impulse so much. Because not just the building, but like Redstone geeks. Ah. Chapter 30. Impulse wasn't sure how much time he had elapsed. At least a couple of days had passed since Scar had returned home with Matthias. An alarm that would go off if a window was opened, and ways to make the base more accessible for Scar. Impulse stood from his work, looking down at the wheelchair before him. It didn't look like any traditional wheelchair, but it didn't look super spectacular either. He fidgeted with new buttons in one of the armrests before he smiled. 2 days of relentless work, and it was finally ready. He wished he could have done it sooner, to spare Scar the agony of bed rest again, but he didn't want to rush it either. Steel and iron gleamed in the sunlight, so he readjusted the cushions of the chair, making sure it would fit just right. He looked up at the sound of footsteps coming down the hallway before they stopped at the door. "Come in," Impulse called out as Tango opened the door, his ruby red eyes gleaming with pride. "Hi, Tango. How's it going, buddy?" "The elevator is done," Tango said happily. "Pearl and Gem are working on the last of the windows. Both bases are secure. What about the tower? Any likelihood of that being rebuilt?" Impulse tilted his head thoughtfully. Tango frowned, looking over toward the window for a moment before replying. "I don't think those two will go back to that for a while." Impulse nodded, putting his hands on the handles of the chair. "Well, good news, at least. Scar's ready to go mobile again." "Great!" the other hermit grinned. "Probably shouldn't keep him waiting, then. Anything you need me to do?" "No, honestly." Impulse shook his head. "I think we should be okay for now. If there's anything you want me to if there's anything you want to do, though, I won't stop you." "I might work on that chip again, then," Tank replied. "Or at Doc if he wants to do any magic with it." "You know how it is." Impulse chuckled. "Whenever the upgrade is ready, I'm sure Rose will probably want to see it." "I don't blame her." Tango sighed. "Besides, getting it off my hands will probably make you feel better." "You still made it," Impulse said quietly with a small smile. "I don't have to know that." Tango lifted his chin defiantly. "Don't worry about me so much. It'll be fine. I made my choice when I created Chip. I know the dangers. It's okay." Impulse nodded. "Sorry, had a habit." Tango chuckled, looking across the room to Darmit, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "We got this, buddy." "Julius may have surprised me once, but it won't happen again." "Can't promise that," Impulse pointed out, shaking him away. He tightened his grip on the handlebars. "I need to get this to Scar. Good luck with your experimenting." "Have fun," Tango said happily. Impulse pushing the chair out of the hole, seeing Tyler just step outside the room. Excuse me. Seeing Tyler step inside the room, Impulse hadn't seen the man in a little while as the escort closed the door behind him. The hermit decided it was best not to ask questions. Tango wasn't alone in the room. That's all that mattered to him right now. They were safe. He pushed the wheelchair down the hall, coming to the sleepover room. The door was wide open. He heard voices coming from the room as they died down. "Is that?" Scar's eyes grew wide when he looked at Impulse before gazing at what the hermit was pushing into the room. "Is that for me?" "Yep." Impulse smiled and nodded. "And with some help too. Custom just for you. No one will want to mess with you now." "This looks like a normal wheelchair." Korean frowned, getting to his feet from off the floor, helping pull some of the sleeping bags aside to make transit easier. "It's not any ordinary wheelchair," Impulse replied matter-of-factly. "I'm a rest donor. I've put some extra things in here to help keep Scar safe, and give him a way to defend himself. Or others." "Can you show me?" Scar whispered, as Impulse pushed the wheelchair up against the bed. "Not in here," Impulse giggled. "We'd have to go outside for that." "Green's been telling me all about all the things you guys have been up to," Scar said happily, pushing the covers aside, pulling the wheelchair closer. "You and Tango have been busy. Have you ever had time to sleep?" "Not much," Impulse admitted, humbly with a chuckle. "Do you need help with getting her?" "No, I think I got it. Just make sure the chair doesn't roll away from me." Scar grunted. Impulse kept the chair steady as the hermit carefully hoisted himself from the bed onto the chair. "It's not any ordinary wheelchair," Scar said. "It's a It was slow, a little shaky, but he managed. Thanks, Impulse. Don't take me yet, we're not done. Impulse smiled, pointing to the control panel. You can move around using those, or prefer. What do all the buttons do? Scar gazed in awe at the buttons. Probably safer to test it outside, Impulse mused. One of them shoots out a force field, and I don't want to risk someone getting hurt. A stupid grin appeared on Scar's face as the hermit nodded. Alright, then. Show us the way. Why don't you lead us? Lead it. Lead us the way. We'll be right behind you. Impulse offered, gesturing to the door. Are you sure I'll be safe? We're technically unlocked right now, Green admitted, following Scar and Impulse out into the hall. Scar leading the way towards the stairs. There is a new addition to the stairwell, including an elevator, big enough to hold a wheelchair. As long as you three don't go far, I think it'll be okay. Blake replied from behind them. Impulse looked back, surprised to see both Blake and Caleb behind them. Where did you come from? You weren't in the hallway when I came to see them, Impulse asked curiously. We should check in with Isaac in another room, Blake replied. We heard you coming out, so we decided to see what you were up to. How are Isaac and Beat-Ups doing? Scar looked over his shoulder at the two boys. They're both doing okay. Isaac has been helping Lizzie with some potions, and Beat-Ups has been working on some security and traps. Caleb replied matter-of-factly. A lot has changed in the school since we were there. Your arrivals every day for the past month. Bad? Green asked sadly. Blake nodded grimly. Liam's been saying there have been a lot more attacks on villages and towns as of late. Campbell wants to weed out all the YouTubers, taking them out one by one, hurting innocent people in the process. We'll put a stop to this, Impulse said defiantly, lifting his chin. We can't let him get away with it. How are we going to do that? Green asked. I don't know. Impulse looked over at the hermit. We'll figure that out, I guess. Why don't we get some fresh air and think about it together? As well as cool things, see what cool things this thing can do. Not sure why that sentence was so hard to say. Scar offered, rolling onto the elevator, pressing a button as it began its descent. The floor below pulled away to give room for the incoming elevator. The rest of the group met the hermit downstairs. Stay close to the base, Caleb warned. Last thing we need is for someone to try to take advantage of this in the moment. Yeah, Green nodded, heading toward the door, opening it. Warm breeze gliding it through the open door, filling the room. At least I'm not an easy target this time. Scar patted the chair. I'm a bit heavier now. It pulls out. Yeah, but we'll still be careful. Can't take any chances right now. Did you ever find out if anyone unauthorized was still using the cameras, Caleb? Green asked as Impulse stepped out into the fresh afternoon air. Scar rolled out right behind him. Not that I know of, Caleb shook his head. I'm not sure. I can rule out the possibility either, unfortunately. We'll be careful. Impulse rolled his shoulders back before pointing a little ways from the window. Right there should be fine, Scar. Scar grinned, rolling toward where the hermit pointed as they followed him. Impulse looked up into the crisp blue sky, seeing nothing in sight. He couldn't see the roof from this angle, but he doubted anyone would be up there right now. It was a beautiful day to relax and enjoy. He knew Blake and Caleb wouldn't let anything happen to them. For the first time in a while, he felt relaxed. He was with his friends. This was normal. As normal as it could be from in a time where things were far normal. Chapter 31. Hey, good evening, Donnie Bickies. I am pulling my nose. Hang on. mean she's getting a little warm? What are you that about? Really? What does this button do? Scar asked curiously, pointing out to one of the buttons on his wheelchair. Impulse had shown him what each of the buttons did, whether extending the armrest to reveal fireball weapons or a hidden fresh bow and arrows. Press it, Impulse encouraged, staying close to the wheelchair knowingly as the hermit pressed it, as a bright light exploded from the chair surrounding them. Oh, that's the force field! Scar gasped in delay. Yeah, Doc made that one. He let me use it for the wheelchair. Impulse smiled. Scar pressed the button again and the force field shimmered away. That way you can protect yourself from almost everything. From explosions, flying projectiles, falling objects. This is cool. Scar grinned, pressing another button as another compartment opened. Are these treats? Easily accessible treats for Jelly. Impulse replied matter-of-factly. Impulse, you're a genius. Did I ever tell you that? Scar beamed, closing the compartment again. I'd give you a hug if I could. Impulse laughed, patting Herman on the shoulder. It's nothing. Nothing? You've outdone yourself, Scar insisted, looking over at Green. You didn't have to do any of this. You could have just made me the wheelchair and left it at that. You know me better. Impulse mused with a smile. Thank you, Impulse. Scar said happily. He took a long, deep breath. You really are a lifesaver. Me? Impulse smirked, looking over at Green. The hermit was leaning against the wall beside Blake and Caleb, watching them. You happen to have a spare gas blaster? Green asked, nodding over to where the hidden fireball blaster was in Scar's wheelchair. You could definitely use one. You don't have to ask Doc, Impulse replied. What he gave me was a prototype. He hasn't perfected it yet. Green nodded, pushing himself from the wall with a smile. I can do that later. Is there anything else this thing can do? Not much else, Impulse frowned. I haven't been able to give it any special abilities for flight or anything. It is portable, at least. Oh, good. Caleb sighed in relief. Barely, Impulse pointed out. I'll have to work on that at a later time. He glanced over at the wall. Sudden feeling of goosebumps crawling down his arms and legs. Being watched came over him. He didn't see anything in the trees, however. Nothing on the wall either. You okay, Impulse? Scar asked, putting a hand on his arm as Impulse jolted back into reality. Yeah, I'm fine, Impulse replied quickly, giving him a reassuring smile. We should get inside. The longer we stay out here, the brisker it gets. I couldn't agree more, a voice said from behind him. A shiver ran down his spine, hearing the voice. Before he could turn around or do anything, someone tackled him to the ground. Of course I'm going to do that. 33. Of course I'm going to do that. Yeah. Impulse! Green shouted and Impulse fell to the earth with a groan, feeling someone pinning him down with their weight. I wouldn't budge if I were you, the voice warned. Impulse heard a couple of swords extend as he looked up. Blake and Caleb were standing in front of Green and Scar, defensively, swords withdrawn and raised warily. What do you want, Julius? Blake said firmly. His eyes were ablaze with determination. I didn't expect you to be back so soon after our last encounter. Julius snorted, amused by what his cousin said. I don't make the rules. He clapped his hands and Scar gasped in surprise. Bowles looked over his shoulder, his captor pushing his head down. Hermit grunted again, hearing footsteps as more of Campbell's men appeared. Campbell has big plans for your friends, cousin. Both you two be them not. I wouldn't resist, otherwise someone might get hurt. Let Impulse go, Green demanded, taking a nervous step back, Scar pulling out his bow. No, why would I do that? Julius managed a weak smile. Impulse could see a square of light behind the young man, about 10 or 15 feet away. Signal for Caden, Green! Impulse shouted, groaning as the man on top of him knocked him hard on the side of the head. Be quiet, you, the man snapped. You can use the gadget if you want, Julius told him simply, almost like a second thought. So keep him quiet. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Scar said defiantly, holding a bow high, or as high as he could while seated in a wheelchair. An armchair, an armchair. An arrow knocked and ready to fire. If you or any of your lackeys do anything to hurt my friends, I will shoot. Julius laughed. What happened to you in the last couple of days at Did one of Gerald's experiments go wrong? Impulse could see Korean crouching behind Scar, letting the hermit obscure him from view as he pulled out a communicator, sending a signal. Korean looked up just in time to meet Impulse's eyes as Impulse reached out mentally. Splat. He asked his friend. I don't know. I sent a signal. We need to stall. Korean replied back, stumbling to his feet as he pocketed a device. Impulse groaned as he felt something click around his forehead as the headband came to life, humming faintly, the pitch sounding lower than he last remembered it. That's none of your business what happened. That's none of your business what happened. Korean raised his chin, putting a hand on Scar's shoulder. What matters is if you hurt Impulse, we will retaliate. We're not afraid of you. Oh, I highly doubt that, Julius sneered, pulling something out of his pocket. It was a communicator. Impulse swallowed, recognizing the design. Where did you get that? Caleb demanded, tightening his grip on his weapon. Same way I found that specialty. Julius looked over at Impulse. Someone gave it to me. You stole it! Impulse snapped, gasping in pain as the headband sparked to life. He felt the guard holding him down. Put his arms behind his back, binding him. I don't have to steal it. I didn't have to steal it, Julian shrugged. Someone did it for me. Remember, we had the decoy? One more reason to not like that guy, Caleb muttered before shaking his head. That's beside the point. Why are you here? Campbell has his reasons, Julius said calmly, glancing up at a window up on the second floor of Jem's base. Impulse wasn't able to completely follow his gaze as a sickening feeling filled him. You knew, Impulse hissed. Had been not shocking him this time. Gotta say, you are a terrible liar, Julius shrugged. You had me for a few seconds, though, but I wouldn't worry about that. Doesn't matter who did or didn't make a chip. Campbell wants to make a statement, and you get to be a part of it. Impulse narrowed his eyes, just as pearls flew from above, shattering around them as more of Campbell's men appeared. Grant, Scar, run! There's no point, Julius mused with a smile. No one's coming to rescue you, and away from this. Not alive, anyway. Scar! Grant yelped as someone grabbed him from behind. Blake whirled around, lunging at the man in order to free the hermit. Impulse watching helplessly as Green stumbled away. Scar charging toward another two men, intending to barreling through them. Follow me, Scar called over his shoulder as the two guards dashed away. What about Impulse? Graham took a few steps after his friend, looking back just as another guard tackled him to the ground. Graham screamed, another man coming to the other soldier's aid. No! Impulse cried, being pulled to his feet, the hum of the headband growing more and more intense. Graham! Scar wheeled around at the hermit's cry. Caleb jumping into the pile as well, yelping as one of the men whirled back around and attacked him. I'm coming, G! No, get out of here, Blake insisted. Impulse watched as one of the men pinned him against the wall. Get out of here and find help! Scar nodded, though reluctant, as he pressed a button. A force field appearing just as one of the men tried to lunge toward him. The man screamed in pain as Scar tore down the field toward the front entrance, passing Matthias as he came toward them. Matthias! Impulse cried, struggling against his captor, feeling himself being pulled toward the portal. He yelped as a pearl flew through the air, landing on a few feet from him. Green appeared moments later, lunging at the two of them, pushing them inside. Last thing Impulse remembered was being enveloped by light. Fun times. Chapter 34. That was a big mistake, a voice said out loud as the light faded away from Impulse's vision. Was it his vision? His eyes were closed. The darkness around him felt unsettling. The next thing he heard was a yelp of surprise as someone calling out his name. Let go of me! Green's voice insisted. Impulse's eyes snapped open as he laid helpless on the floor, hands still bound behind him. He looked up, seeing a familiar figure holding Green by the arm, shoving him towards one of the guards. "Take him to the dungeon. I'll see you there," the familiar voice said calmly. "As for you," the hermit heard footsteps as the figure walked toward him. Kneeling beside him, Impulse turned to the man, seeing the cold, familiar smile. The dark gray eyes matched the scarred face of the man who had caused Scar's paralysis. "It's good to see you again. Hopefully this doesn't go and get interrupted this time. Why are you taking Green?" Impulse demanded, gasping as the headband sparked to life again. "Gentle with him, soldier. You're only meant to shock him if he gets out of line. Not doing anything wrong," Gerald said calmly, looking over to another man standing by the door. His head had been strapped around his head. "Sorry, sir. I just want him to know who's in charge," the soldier grunted. "He knows very well who's in charge. Don't you, Impulse?" Gerald smiled coldly down at the hermit. He shuddered at the smile. The man unbinding the hermit. "You should ask why," the soldier warned. You'd know if he had any hint of a thought of escape," Gerald reminded him. "Besides, if he does, I'll make sure Green suffers more for it." Leave Green out of this," Impulse hissed as the man released him from his bonds. Julius stepped through the portal, calmly, pressing a button as it died. Matthias came out of nowhere and nearly ruined everything. Julius reported before Impulse had managed to sit up. A dark smoke all upon the boy's face. "Nearly. You did anything to Scar," Impulse stumbled to his feet. "Or any of the others." "Why would you care about my cousin? With the other lame kid?" Julius shook his head. "They're only doing what they're told. I don't think they care about you." "I doubt they care about you." "I do." Impulse narrowed his eyes. "Got a problem with that?" "No, we don't actually." Julius shrugged. Impulse groaned as the headband increased in volume again. I didn't do anything. Sky got away. The other guards were meant to keep the others at bay. What of the other hermits? Gerald asked curiously. Sickening feeling filled Impulse as he glared at the man. "I haven't heard back from the other party yet, sir." The boy frowned. Gerald shook his head. "Very well. Can you take this one on to your father? Campbell's busy with the final preparation, so Stephen is left with dealing with him." "What about you?" Julius asked, walking to the hermit and grabbing him by the arm. "Campbell is the only one who wants to make a statement," Gerald's eyes gleamed. "I have an assignment to finish. Green will help me finish it." "Don't you dare touch him!" Impulse felt a bubbling rage consume him as he attempted to yank himself from Julius. The hermit imagined a giant ball of fire hitting Gerald smack in the face. Unfortunately, the man didn't budge. Instead, Impulse stumbled to the ground, screaming in pain, feeling like his entire world was on fire. God laughed. "Julius, it worked." "It did." Julius grinned, pulling the hermit to his feet. "You tried to blast him, didn't you?" "So what if I did?" Impulse glowered, trying to hold back the tears. "Get away with this." "Too bad, because I think we will." Julius beamed. Gerald nodded, seeming pleased with how the boy was handling things, leaving the three of them alone. "Do I need to do anything to keep him in line?" the guard warned cautiously, pushing himself from the wall, heading to the door. "No, I don't think so," Julius said calmly. Impulse closed his eyes, trying to reach out to Green's link, a hint of fear slipping through his fingers. "You're not doing this alone. I'm here," Impulse assured his friend through his thoughts. "Impulse," a whisper into his mind. Green. Fear wavered in those words. Yet there was something else. Something he hadn't noticed at first. "Here," Impulse reminded him gently. He gasped in pain as a jolt of energy shot through his body. Julius was yelping as well. "What did you do that for?" Julius snapped angrily at the man, having let go of the hermit. He was talking to the other prisoner, the soldier grunted. "But did you have to shock me, too?" Julius sneered at the man. The guard shrugged, grabbing for Impulse's arm instead. Just take us to your father. Let's not keep him waiting." "Fine," Julius huffed, walking out into the hall. Impulse dragged behind the man. The man's grip tightened in warning to the hermit. Impulse didn't say anything, keeping his mind as clear as he could. He hoped everyone was okay. Gem, Pearl, Tango. A lump formed in his throat as he pushed the thought away. An image of his friends lying unconscious on the pool of blood, trapped under a rubble. Jelly's pitiful meow under a demolished nightstand. The image of Tango on a couch appeared in his mind again. His pale face, the bandages hiding the cuts and bruises that Julius dealt. Feeling Skiz's arm around him. His friend beside him. Always beside him. Always. Tears filled the hermit's eyes, blinking the images away, hearing the distant small talk Julius and the guard making, as if they had forgotten what had happened moments earlier. J5. Julius stopped in front of an open door. The guard halting in his tracks, as Impulse could see, halting in his tracks as well. Impulse could see it was some sort of laboratory, like before, but there was no large machine. Not this time. At least it wasn't stored here. Was he here? He could be sure. Father, he's here. Julius said confidently. I don't know what's up with that accent. Straightening taller as he had his attempt to look bigger, he walked into the room, pulling Impulse aside. I wouldn't expect anything less from my son. The doctor nodded, turning from a table with a brewing stand. There was a bottle brewing on the stand. Royster leaned against the counter calmly. Did you say hello to my nephew? How is he doing? Stubborn as always, Julius lifted his chin. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. Royster smiled, looking over at Impulse. Blake's been quite the troublemaker, I hear. Getting into things he shouldn't. Impulse tensed, watching the man warily as he pushed himself from a corner. What do you want, Stephen? Call me Doctor. Royster narrowed his eyes. I already know someone by that name, and it's not you. Impulse scowled. What do you want? It's not what I want, Impulse, the man replied simply. Rather, it's what Theodore wants. He wants your help with something. I'm not helping you, or him, Impulse said defiantly, wincing when he heard Scar's muffled scream in his mind. It was like he was in a room with them, being tortured by the invisible machine that did not exist. It's either you or one of your friends, Royster shrugged. Doc is too loyal to his friends. Mumbo has made it impossible now to get to him. Nor would he help us anyway after how Mr. A handled his machine. Grumbug was his son, Impulse snapped. He was forced to delete himself to keep a corrupt AI from destroying us all. Julius God. How can you have a robot kid? Who was the mother? He had two dads, Mumbo and Korean, Impulse said sourly, crossing his arms. That's the truth, the guard piped up. Grumbug was used in some sort of mayoral race a few years back and went haywire. They had to shut him down and scrap the entire idea. Interesting, Royster nodded. Regardless, he was not an option in Tango. I got to him easy last time. Julius snickered. That you did. The doctor frowned. Gerald insisted on looking towards you, as he felt you would feel compelled to help. Not just for your friend's sake, but for the world's. You don't want to help anyone. Bull stood his ground. If you really cared, then you wouldn't send men to attack villages and towns, destroying hundreds, if not thousands of people's lives in the process. A smile on Julius' face faltered. The young man looked up to the guard. What's he talking about? I'm talking about your boss's plan to attack the school after forcing those same children to run for their lives. People snapped at the boy. Hundreds of kids are being uprooted from their homes, ripped from their families, just like you were, Julius. And who do they have to think? What do they get out of it? They might not even have a family left to go back to. I would be careful with your words, Impulse, Royster warned, lifting a finger as the headband sparked. If you do this, there would be no need to keep fighting. No need for bloodshed. Yeah, because everyone would be dead. Impulse marched up at the man. His face inches from the doctor. He screamed. A moment later, the jolt shot through him, collapsing to the floor, groaning in pain. Thank you. The doctor nodded to the guard, who smirked in amusement. Royster knelt at the hermit's side, putting a hand on his shoulder. Get away from me, Impulse hissed, shaking the man's hand away. Don't talk to my father like that, you tuber, Julius warned. He's offering you a chance to save everyone, to stop all of this. Don't you want that? Not what he wants. Impulse shook his head, looking over at Julius. This is not what you want either. How do you know? The voice. Julius sneered. Hush, child, Royster glared at the young man. I'm rather... Julius started before his father shushed him again. Royster's eyes looked into Impulse's own. The man studied him for a moment. His stare made the hermit's skin crawl, wanting to get as far away from the man as possible. All Campbell wants is for you to create something for him that will force all sides to comply, Royster said calmly. Do you even know what you're asking? Impulse demanded. People won't stand down because you created a deadly weapon or a poisonous virus. They're not afraid of you. If you really want to win, you should come down at our level. You need to know what you're fighting for. You're starting to sound like Scar, Julius said in mock amusement. Your pity words won't change anything, Impulse. You either help us or don't. Their blood will be on your hands if you refuse. So you're willing to go out there and kill innocent children to make a statement? Impulse's voice shook. To prove that you're better than us? What do you want, Julius? What do you really want? Impulse cried out in pain as the humming of the headband crackled, pricking his skin like 1,000 tiny needles. Royster shook his head, seemingly disappointed. These children are a sacrifice we're willing to make for the greater good. What? Greater good? Impulse wheezed through the pain, seeming like a dam broke. Something like a dam broke within him. He sat up, slowly getting to his feet. Royster did the same, although reluctantly. It won't solve anything. Never does. There's no excuse for this. What you've done, what Gerald or Campbell have done, what he has done. The hermit pointed a finger at Julius, who took a frightened step back. I want to stand, because you don't. Not really. Impulse took a deep breath, feeling a hum of the headband fade from his mind, adrenaline taking its place. You can't let go of the fact that you messed up, Doctor. You couldn't save your family. You can't get what you wanted. Even if you took all of us, it wouldn't fill that emptiness inside. So only pull you deeper, keep you down until you drown. I don't like what's happening. My attacks aren't doing anything, the guard insisted, as the hermit turned. The guard's eyes filled with anger. What is this? Power, Royster whispered in awe. Real emotional power. Pierced through him, but Impulse didn't wince, didn't budge, feeling fear echo into his mind. A faint muffled scream filled the chasm, echoed in his thoughts. He could imagine a hand reaching out toward him through the void, small and shaking, crushing agony waiting in his chest, like a wound pulling out as he stepped toward the door. Where's Gran? Stop him! Julian shouted as the guard stood in front of the door. The young man lunged at Impulse. The hermit faltered, shoving the man out of the way with ease. Get out of my way, Impulse formed demand. I don't get it. The guard's voice shook. How is he doing that? Impulse, Royster said firmly, stopping the hermit from shoving the man aside. If you try to interrupt what Gerald is doing, it might make it worse. His warning hit a chord in Hermit's inner being. He wants to kill me. Impulse replied, confused, those words only for a moment. He realized he was voicing Griev's thoughts. Impulse felt his body begin to shake as the guard grabbed him by the shoulders. Gran! Calm down there, the guard said calmly, forcing the hermit to his knees. Everything will be fine. No one is hurting anyone. No one is killing anyone. Don't let anything happen to them, a voice whispered into his mind. Yes? Impulse's voice quivered, his tears falling down his face. Keep doing what you're doing. It's calming him down, Royster encouraged the guard. Find him. We'll find Kiss. The guard assured him calmly. We'll get you back to your friends. You and Green. We'll have a picnic together, yes? Skiz is gone, Impulse said sourly, glaring at the man for smiling sadly. You're a jerk for not realizing that. The man yelped in pain as he fell backwards. Impulse imaginary fireball hitting him square in the face. Impulse got to his feet, bolting for the door, hearing Julius calling after him, calling for security as the hermit ran down the hall. Power moment there. Chapter 36. Gran! Impulse cried, ripping through the headband off his forehead, tossing it aside, and charging down the hall. His cry was followed by a muffled scream, A scream of agony, of desperation, a plea of crushing fear, overwhelming pain. Feet pounded behind him, but the hermit didn't look back. Seeing a door open ahead of him, hearing indistinguishable voices in the room, a guard charged out of the room, barreling towards him. Impulse didn't stop, didn't hesitate as he shoved the man aside, hearing a soft whisper of pain. Please don't, Green's small voice begged, his voice still muffled, yet it was almost like it was right there beside him. I'm here, Green. Impulse reached out through the link. He clasped Green's mental hand into his own, letting the pain wash over him like a fountain of strength. He made it to the door, finding a set of stairs leading downward. Impulse, stop! Julius shouted from behind him. You've got nowhere to go. You can't fight all of us. Impulse looked over his shoulder, seeing half a dozen men joining Julius, coming down the hall toward him. Do you really want to lose someone else? After losing Skids? Julius snapped, his eyes blazed with fury. Why would you care? You killed him. Impulse narrowed his eyes. Stand down, Hermit, and no one has to get hurt, one of the guards warned. Your bargains are worthless to me. Impulse shook his head. You never keep your promises. Why do you expect us to keep ours? I never made a promise, Hermit. Just a warning. Julius sneered. Impulse put a hand on the door frame, watching the group slow to walk, perhaps realizing he wasn't going to charge down the stairs. You told the kids where you were. It's your fault he's dead. If you hadn't meddled, maybe he'd still be alive. Don't even start. Impulse scowled, hearing Green's muffled scream below. I'm going down here to get Green and get out. I made a promise, and I plan to keep it. Like your other promises? Julie sneered. Those were never promises. Impulse lifted his chin, slamming the door and bolting it behind him, just as the ground shook beneath them. He heard Julius scream, along with the other men, as something crashed down from above. He steadied himself against the wall, not wanting to know what was going on outside. If it kept Julius and his goons distracted, he'd take it. All I want is your help, Green, that's all, Gerald's voice said, unnaturally calm. Why is that so hard to ask? You find them. Green coughed in pain. I never said I needed to. I know where they are. I never said I needed to know where they are. I've already narrowed it down quite a bit, thanks to some poking around, Gerald mused. Pulse continued to faster down the stairs, coming to the bottom, peeking into the room. Gerald loomed over Green, crouched on the floor before the huddled figure. Tears soaked Green's face, his jumper tattered and torn, his sleeves burned off, revealing cuts. Gerald had a dagger in his hand with a purple hue. Sparks shot from the blade. Pulse noted the blade didn't have the poison he'd seen before. Perhaps that wasn't Gerald's plan. All I need is a statement. Send out a signal to your friends and I'll stop. Tell them to meet me at the designated location. I tell you. Alone. And I'll let you go. No. Green shook his head, gasping in pain as he squirmed against the man's grip on him. You can't. What I will tell them then. What will I tell them then when they find out you're gone? That they never got a final goodbye? Gerald's dark voice echoed through the cobblestone walls. He felt a wave of strength fill him as he stepped out, pulling out a sword. It's a shame you never cleared out my pockets, Gerald, Impulse said confidently. Impulse! Gerald got to his feet, surprised to see the hermit as he smiled. How did you get here? Never mind. It's because that you come. Perhaps Green will be more lenient now to fulfill my request. Leave Green alone, Impulse said firmly, taking a step closer. You're no fighter, Impulse. Why are you even trying? Gerald taunted, putting away his dagger, pulling out a sword in its place. Can't you see it's pointless fighting? You and your little resistance stand no chance against us. Your friends will fall, and it will be their blood on your hands. I'm not the traitor here, Impulse lifted his chin. Gerald scoffed. When we're done creating history, you will be. That's all they will remember you by. Your kind being a bunch of traitors, liars, who never cared about anyone but themselves. Sounds like you, to be honest, Impulse pointed out, with a raised eyebrow. Very funny. Gerald scowled, all humor erased from the man's face. The man lunged at the hermit, Impulse taking the defense as he attempted to keep the man far away from Green as he could. He could see Green's pale face in dim lighting. His breathing was labored, lying on his back, staring up at the ceiling in agony. How has God been doing lately since the last time I saw him? Regretting your decision in not helping us. I'll never help you, Impulse snapped. Gerald smiled coldly, shoving the hermit back. Impulse grunted, stumbling against the wall, yelping as he raised his sword, blocking the man's attack. So you're the dad to help. Gerald's grin was unmistakable. Oh, Green choked on his own words, stifling out a sob. Well, Gerald asked again, ignoring the other hermit. I could say the same to you, Impulse replied, except you refused to die. Gerald sneered, stepping closer. Impulse pressed himself against the wall, staring at the man, not wanting to think about the blade inching toward him. He could feel his hands shaking, trembling as he tried to keep himself steady. Gerald stopped what he was doing at the sound of footsteps. The hermit inhaled a breath. Gerald looked over his shoulder, seeing two figures appear. A yellow duckling and a young man in his late teens, if not early 20s. The boy was tall, lean with golden blonde hair and deep blue eyes. The duckling stood tall beside him as well, their ocean blue eyes brightly shining like blue fire against soft yellow. Oh, well, you know. Chapter 38. Why, isn't this a surprise? Gerald asked calmly, not moving from his spot in front of the Impulse. Have you come to see me clean up my mess? Your mess? Impulse raised an eyebrow. I should have killed you when I had a chance, Gerald sneered, leaning closer to the hermit. I should have let those men throw you against the rocks, crushing you against boulders. I should have. Enough, the boy said defiantly. Let them go, Gerald. You're outnumbered, and the base has fallen. The base has fallen, and your men are either captured or dead. Gerald laughed. You know very well that doesn't stop me, Samuel. Just because I'm outnumbered doesn't mean I don't control the situation. Impulse gasped, feeling the man press harder, resisting the blade as it drew ever so closer. Would be able to push the man away, duck to the side and miss the blade? Green whimpered behind him, fueling the hermit once more. Not going to let you bully me, Gerald. Not me. It's certainly not my friends. He shoved Gerald back, the man yelping in surprise as the hermit lunged toward Green. Gerald whirled around, charging toward the hermit, but the boy jumped forward, tackling the man to the ground. Get them out of here, the young man, Samuel, looked over his shoulder at the duckling, who nodded, although reluctantly. Are you sure you can handle him? They asked as it pulled next to Green's side, assessing the hermit's injuries. I don't see any, Samuel replied, yelping in surprise that Gerald tossed him off. Sam! The duckling shouted in alarm. Charging toward Gerald, Impulse looked up, seeing the man get to his feet. Sam got to his feet, grabbing for his fallen sword as Gerald chuckled. Be so hasty, Squishy. If I wanted to kill him, I would have, Gerald said smugly. Yeah, right, Sam said blandly. I know you far better than you think I do. Do you now? The man, Gerald taunted, laughing. Such a shame that I don't have my trusty allies then, huh? Impulse, Green whimpered. Impulse feeling the hermit grabbing for his hand. I got you, buddy. I'm here. Impulse turned to him, leaning closer before pulling out his medical box. I'm here. Green smiled sadly, watching the hermit pull out the regen potion. Lifting Green's head as Impulse let him drink the liquid. Color began to return to Green's face. His cuts began to heal. His scar. Others? I don't know, Impulse said quietly, looking up at the group still conversing. Who's seeing his scar's friends are here? Did you help? How did they find us? Green whispered, his voice soft and hoarse. I don't know, Impulse repeated, jumping when he heard an interval. Look out! Sam's voice warned as the hermit looked up. Let go, scream as Gerald lunged toward him, knocking him onto his back as he felt hands grab for his throat. Impulse! Green coughed as running feet neared him, Impulse gasping for air as the duckling, Squishy, yanked the man off him, releasing the hermit from the man's grip. I think you need some time behind bars to think about what you just did. Squishy shook their head disapprovingly. Gerald cackled at him, getting to his feet. I don't take orders from little fledglings like you. He bolted toward the entrance. How rude. Sam charging after him. Squishy hesitated for a moment before turning, kneeling next to him as the hermit sat up. You aren't hurt? Squish frowned, looking him up and down. I'm okay. Impulse regained his breath. Thank you for saving me there. Anytime. Squish, she smiled gently. I'm guessing you're Impulse? Yep. He looked over at Grian. Right there is Grian. Ah. Squish, she nodded, knowingly, scooting over to check on the hermit. Jeb and Scar had a lot to say about you two. They did? Impulse asked hopefully. Yeah, Squish nodded. All good things, of course. Impulse chuckled, noticing Grian was reaching out for him again. Gonna leave you. You're safe. Grian smiled, his turn, this time looking more relaxed. Is everyone is safe, or at least safe currently? Squish nodded, assuring the hermit. Scar and Stampy are waiting for us upstairs. Scar, Grian sighed, looking up at the duckling. Have you heard from Jem? Impulse asked him quickly. Jem and your other friends are okay, Squishy replied, looking back at the sound of footsteps behind them. Sam reappeared, looking disappointed. We should get going, Sam urged them. We can figure out what to do next back at Stampy's place. You got it, Squishy nodded, getting to their feet, offering a hand to the hermit. Impulse took it, getting to his feet. Impulse picked Grian up from off the ground, holding him firmly in his arms. Grian rested his head on his friend's shoulder. His features looked calm, peaceful, his eyes closed, as if he was sleeping. Yeah. Yep. Chapter 39. Stay close, Sam warned, glancing back at the two YouTubers following him as they ascended the stairs. There's still a chance that some of Campbell's guys are still around. The explosion took out a lot of them, though, Squishy said matter-of-factly, arriving at the top of the young man. Impulse following, holding Grian in his arms. The hermit still fast asleep. Whoever was chasing me, yeah, Impulse agreed. With a nod, Julius tried to call for backup to stop me. Sam frowned, looking down all warily. How many of them came? 6, maybe 7, not including Julius? Impulse replied, looking up at the hole, and the ceiling opened up to a clear blue sky. Where are we exactly? Just under the bark. Squishy said calmly, donning on their elytra, fastening the straps securely. Scar led us here after you. We felt a strong feeling of pain. Impulse swallowed, nodded. Yeah, you knew Grian was in trouble. Sam nodded. I heard from Jem something like that had happened before. Impulse smiled sadly. Yep, don't surprise me. I felt it too. Need a lift? A voice asked from above, startling the hermit for a minute as he looked up, seeing a few figures appear. One with an orange ginger cat, another a beaver, and a third someone he recognized. Scar! Impulse gasped, a smile forming on his face. Why, hello there, Impulse. Scar returned the smile. He still sat in the wheelchair, although there was an additional strap of fabric across his chest, securing him to the chair. I can help him out, Squishy replied cheerfully, looking over at Impulse. Is that okay with you? That's fine. Impulse offered them an arm, still trying not to drop his friend in the process as the two of them flew out of the hole and into the bright afternoon sky. Squish carefully landed on the grass, steadying the hermit before letting him go. He's not badly hurt, is he? The cat asked with a frown, looking at Grian, who was unaware of what was happening around him. He'll be okay. Impulse smiled encouragingly. We can only do so much with Gerald running around. Where is he now? The cat asked, looking back to the hole warily. He gave me the slip when one of his friends tried to jump me. Sam scowled over shrugging it off. Were you able to take care of Julius? Yep. Yeah, Fizzy took him to the police station for now, the cat said brightly. We'll have to let Rose know when to pick him up. You got Julius? Impulse's eyes widened in surprise. That we did! He got knocked out in an explosion, Scar said with excitement. Fizzy was going to tend to the injuries he suffered as well. Why? Impulse asked sourly. Regardless of who he is, the cat replied. He's still fairly young and misguided. He killed my best friend, Impulse snapped. The cat nodded sadly. I know. That doesn't mean things can't change, however. Scar patted the cat on the shoulder, looking over to the hermit. Julius, at the end of the day, is just a kid looking for approval and acceptance. He spends his whole life trying to make his father proud. No matter what he does, it's never enough, is it? suppose not, Impulse said grimly, shaking his head. I lost my best friend, too, Stappy said sadly. Gerald managed to get me separated from him and tried to kill me, but Squid, well, he gave his life to protect me. I'm sorry to hear that, Hermit replied quietly. Stappy walked over to Impulse, putting a hand on his shoulder. I want things to change. Fighting the way we are just creates more pain and suffering for all of us. Maybe if we show a little... How dare you interrupt my speech? I want things to change. Fighting the way we are, it just creates more pain and suffering for all of us. Maybe we should try a little kindness. It might make a difference. Perhaps not at first, but eventually things could change. A lump formed in Impulse's throat as he nodded, taking a deep breath. Julius isn't badly hurt, is he? Just a few bruises, maybe a cracked rib or that's fine. Cracked rib or two, Stappy said so calmly. But he'll be okay. What about his father? Impulse asked, now more nervous. He's extremely dangerous to be running around, seeing as he created some sort of poison that halts the healing factor. Wait, what? Squishy asked with surprise. So Julius was able to. Impulse couldn't finish. His tears filled his eyes, filling his eyes, hearing his friend scream of pain, seeing Skiz's pale face. Impulse watching helplessly as he watched his friend disappear, unable to do anything to stop what was happening. He could save him. Stappy squeezed Hermit's shoulder. Let's get back to the base, so you two can explain everything you can, and agree and rest. I'm good with that, Impulse nodded, looking up to see Scar encouraging him with a smile, resting his hand on the armrest of his wheelchair. Drop the faulty. At this point, I'm going to finish the whole book. Probably shouldn't go for much longer if we want to have one more session. Impulse took a seat was up in what Stampy, Sam, and Squishy referred to as the clubhouse. Scar rode up next to him. Green had been taken downstairs to the living room of the base, William Beaver watching over him to keep him company, under the insistence of Impulse. The last thing he wanted was for someone to portal in and do something to Green. A lot of planes. A lot of planes. Quite fitting, if you ask me. Quite fitting. Happy summer. How are you feeling? Scar asked him calmly. Impulse looked over at his friend. His green eyes were soft and gentle. You can read my mind, can't you? Impulse asked him, raising an eyebrow. I'll have to, Scar giggled, nudging him playfully. You're a wild mix of emotions right now. I can see it in your eyes. My eyes? Impulse said curiously, a small smile appearing on his face. You're scared about something, Scar said simply, reading the expression on his face. Impulse bit his bottom lip. Everything's fine, I'm just nervous. Nervous about what? Sam asked, sitting beside them, as the other two hermits reappeared from... Now I've called Stappy and Squishy hermits. What is this madness? The other two YouTubers reappeared from the stairwell. A lot of things, really. Full side. Mainly about our friends at the school. Beatums and Isaac are there helping Liam. Sam nodded. I'm sure they'll be fine. I want to believe you, Paul admitted, shaking his head. Campbell wasn't at the base because he was finishing his final preparations. When I accused Stephen and Julius of not caring about their leader, that their leader was about to attack the school, hurting innocent children, the doctor didn't know it. Why would he? It would be like him as much to lead you astray than to lead you in the right direction. Sam frowned with a shrug. But you say he had some sort of poison that took away the healing factor. Impulse didn't look up at the boy. Yeah, he was probably looking into it now, trying to see if there's a way to fight it. I can't imagine what would happen if normal people were infected with that thing. Scar rested his hand on the hermit's shoulder. We won't let it happen. You can't promise that, Impulse admitted quietly. I didn't, Scar replied matter-of-factly. I just stated a fact. We won't let them hurt innocent people like that. My brother is doing the right thing, Sam said gently. He's trying to find a cure, a way to fight back against the threat. Royster might think he has something, but he's not going to stop him from protecting what matters. Impulse nodded, looking up at the boy, into his deep blue eyes. Something about them reassured him, realized that it wasn't something they had to fight alone. I don't blame you for being worried about your friends, Stampy said simply. We have friends there too, and knowing that they're potentially in danger, they're strong. Squishy put a hand on his shoulder, giving him a little kiss on the cheek. They'll be ready if anything does come, and if they need help, we'll be there. Stampy grinned, his green eyes sparkling with joy as he looked into Squishy's ocean blue eyes. Of course we will. Do you know where Jim and the others are by any chance? Impulse asked curiously, looking over at Scar hopefully. The group retreated to Doc's place for safety, and in case the school needed backup, Scar reported. I talked with Jim earlier. She was worried about you and Grian. Impulse nodded. I'm not making this easy for Campbell or Gerald to get at the moment. No, Scar agreed with Grian. I see that as a good thing. Yeah? Impulse looked at him hopefully. It means their plan isn't going the way they hoped. Scar lifted his chin, looking over at Sam, who'd gotten to his feet. They don't have you, nor do they have leverage by taking Grian. That could change in an instant if they knew where we were, Impulse reminded him bitterly. Then they won't, Sam said confidently, glancing toward one of the windows. Quickly. Just stay close to one of us. Impulse nodded with a reluctant smile. At least Julius isn't with them, but that still could go badly. Have a little faith in them, Scar teased, leaning into his friend's shoulder. They've saved both me and Jem many times, getting out of sticky situations. Some of which could have been avoided, Stampy pointed out. Scar giggled. I can't help being curious. Oh, I know, Stampy smiled. The cat smiled. The same way. She shook their head in amusement. You're probably tired, Impulse. You should get some rest, too. I'm honestly not all that tired, the hermit admitted, even though I've subjected to an upgraded headband. The upgrade already? Scar's eyes widened. Just made it harder for me to do my blast. Impulse shrugged. Still did it, though. Scar agreed. You got to show me how to do that. Impulse chuckled, feeling like a heavy weight had been lifted. Scar rolled back, heading toward a lift nearby the staircase. No doubt the hermit wanted to see how Green was doing. Honestly, so did he. Also, I wanted to add before you go, Sam noted as Impulse got to his feet. Caleb was going to stop by to help. Could you let him know that we might need an extra hand? You want Blake and Katie to come by, don't you mean? Impulse asked curiously. After hearing Gerald threaten you like that, Sam said seriously, I don't want to take my chances. Me neither, Impulse nodded, patting his pocket. I have a communicator. I never emptied my pockets. That's odd, Squishy frowned. Impulse nodded. It is. They normally do. Even if I had that bad, leaving me with my weapon and a way to call for help isn't a great move. Unless they wanted you to be rescued, Stampy pointed out, looking nervous when he said it. Why? Impulse asked, looking between his three new friends. I'll try to look into it. Impulse. Sam replied calmly. Just stay close to one of us or the helpers in the meantime, and to keep an eye on Scar too while you're at it. Impulse chuckled. I will. Thanks for the help. That's what I'm here for. Sam grinned happily. Impulse said his farewell, going toward the stairs. He knew what he needed to do. Chapter 41. How annoying on time. Impulse found Scar in the living room, sitting next to the couch where Green was lying, gently placing a regeneration soaked towel over the hermit's chest. Scar looked up when he heard his approach, smiling gently at him. I thought you'd be here, Impulse mused, finding a spare seat as he sat down. Where's William? He went to check something outside. Scar said calmly. I think he heard something and wanted to make sure it wasn't anything dangerous. All right. Impulse leaned back in his chair, noticing two beds in the room as well, neatly made. Did you set those up or did he? I did, Scar said proudly. I thought you would want to sleep with us, seeing as it's still pretty dangerous to be alone right now. It is, Impulse agreed, pulling out the communicator. I'm gonna call Caleb for a little bit. I'm sure he'd want to hear from you. Scar chuckled. It's not my fault we got separated this time. Impulse shook his head. It's never been your fault, Scar. You're just lucky. At the wrong place at the wrong time. What can I say? Scar grinned, putting a gentle hand on Green's shoulder. The other hermit let out a lone sigh. You just left me. The hermit Impulse smiled, putting in the coordinates. Hopefully Juliet isn't causing your friend any trouble. Who, Fizzy? Nah. Scar brushed off. I think Fizzy can handle him, no problem. Okay. The communicator connected. Impulse cleared his throat. Hey, Caleb. It's me. Impulse! Caleb exclaimed. On the other end, how are you doing over the last 2 hours? I'm okay. Impulse mused before hesitating. Has it really been that long? Yeah, you two disappeared through the portal, and the next thing I know, we were at docks. Caleb said simply. Everyone's been worried about you. Yeah, I know. Impulse looked up at Scar, who gave him an encouraging nod. You think placating can take along with you to Lovely World? Why, are you there? Caleb mused. Yep. Impulse replied. Scar was really good at getting help. We're all safe. Green is still recovering, but he should be fine soon. Good. Caleb sighed in relief. Anything we should know about? Campbell is finishing his last preparations, which means if he's going to attack, it'll be soon. Impulse reported. I'm not sure if the new poison has anything to do with it, but we need to be ready. There was a long moment of silence before Caleb replied. Okay, but you're safe? For the moment, yeah. Impulse chuckled. Joe's not really happy with me, though. He's not happy with anyone at the moment. The boy chuckled. He tried to kill me. Impulse warned the boy. I don't think Campbell will hold him back if he wants seconds. Got it, Caleb said softly. I'm guessing Sam was asking for the others. He wants all the help he can get here. It's almost triple the amount of YouTubers, you know. Impulse mused. Even with the helpers. Oh, no, I get it. I totally get it, Caleb laughed. Don't worry. We'll be there in under an hour, if all goes well. Thanks, Impulse nodded. Up at Scar. Anything you want to say, Scar? Could you tell Julia I said hi and give her lots of snacks? Scar asked the boy. Sure can. The boy agreed. I'll see you there soon. You three did. The device disconnected when the hermit bid him farewell. Impulse pocketing the device, looking up when he heard a groan. Green? Started the fire, Green mumbled, rolling onto his side and facing away from the two of them. Impulse met eyes with Scar, seeing the concern on his friend's face. Scar leaned down, whispering to Green's ear. In Green's ear, we're here, Chief. Don't be afraid of the flames. You're not doing this alone. Scar, Green whimpered, before letting out a sigh, relaxing as he went quiet again. Come here. Scar assured him with a sad smile, looking up at Impulse, who stood. That's the third time he told me that. You'll be okay, Impulse said hopefully. We'll be okay. Caleb, Blake, and Katie will get here, and we'll be able to stop whatever those men plan to do. Stop Campbell from hurting anyone else. And keep Gerald away from you, Scar said sternly, looking at the hermit's eyes. Did he really try? He intended to hurt me. Impulse nodded, walking to stand by Scar. He even threatened me. Said he should have killed me when he had the chance at the ravine. Scar shuddered, putting a hand on the hermit's arm. I won't let that happen. I'm not losing another friend. Impulse smiled sadly. I'm not losing another friend either. Scar returned the smile. Good, we're on the same page. I'm not scared of him, Impulse replied, lifting his chin. Scar lowered his hand. Your voice is shaking. Scar teased. You're nervous. I'm not afraid to stand up to him if it means protecting my friends, Impulse said defiantly. We're a team. We need to stick together. I don't have to feed your mind to do that's true. Scar beamed. You're a great friend, Impulse. Don't let any of them tell you otherwise. I'll try. Impulse sighed, looking down at Korean, hearing his soft breathing. The regeneration was doing its wonders. As the cuts and burns began to heal quickly, Korean would be back to his feet in no time. He knew that for sure. An hour and 50 minutes. What? 42. Let's keep going right now. 30 minutes later, Green finally woke up from his nightmarish slumber, opening his dark eyes. Impulse smiled, helping Green out of the couch, stumbling to his feet. Is everyone Green asked, looking around the living room in confusion. Everyone's safe, Impulse assured them. Reassured him. They managed to escape and hide out in Doc's place. Green relaxed, his eyes looking up at the hermit. So we're in Lovely World? Yeah. Caleb, Blake, and Caden will be here soon, Scar said confidently. Impulse let the hermit go as Green steadied himself. We've only been gone for like 2 hours. It felt like forever, Green groaned, putting a hand to his forehead, shaking his head. Gerald, he wanted to kill me, to prove a point, prove that he could do whatever he would do, whatever it took to... I know, Impulse said gently, wrapping an arm around him. We both know. We felt you calling out to us. We managed to find you first. Green managed a weak smile. That's because you were closer. Still, Scar and the others were literally right behind me, Impulse mused with a smile. We had your back. You saved my life, Green coughed, lowering his hand again. We need to stop them. Stop him. Did Gerald tell you? He said. Only that no matter what I did, what we did, it wouldn't matter. We can't save everyone. No, we can't, Scar agreed. We can only do what we can to help each other. They can't keep us from working together to fight for what matters. Green nodded, looking up at the hermit. So, what's the plan, Scar? Wait until our escorts get here? Right now, Sam wanted us to stay close and not be alone anywhere, Impulse reported. For obvious reasons, Green bit his bottom lip. Will we be safe here? I'm guessing so, Impulse frowned. Looking to the open door, hearing a door slam shut in the distance. A moment later, feet pounding down the stairs as he spotted Sam passing by the doorway. Not far behind were Stampy and Squishy. Something's wrong, Scar replied, rolling toward the door. William, what happened? Stampy's voice cried as the hermits went out of the door, Scar taking the lead. I just realized Scar can't go down those stairs. Okay. Scar taking the lead. Impulse ran to the front entrance to the base. Seeing Squishy pulling an elephant from the beaver's arms. The elephant looked down to have been beaten worse for wear. Cuts and bruises all over him. Julius, Impulse whispered. The elephant looked back up at him, his beady black eyes looking sad. They rescued Julius. William nodded his head solemnly, kicking the air with frustration, pulling out a communicator, shouting it to the cat. Stumpy nodded, seeming to understand as he looked up. William got a distress call from Fizzy, so he went to check on him. I'm guessing when he got there everything was a mess and Fizzy was hurt. How? Squishy demanded. Did they break in a hole through the wall or something? Fizzy shook his head, his trunk drooping sadly. Stampy frowned, looking over to the duckling. Could it be the portal thing that Scar was talking about? Probably, Green agreed. It'll explain why they didn't stop us from taking him. Sam scowled. Are you okay, Fizzy? The elephant nodded, pushing himself away from Squishy, standing tall. He pulled a cookie out of his pocket and started munching on it. This isn't good. Green looked over his shoulder warily. We need some way to stop them from using this portal tech. Maybe Viva could help. Stampy offered, his eyes gleaming. Now it's Squishy's turn to frown, furrowing their brow nervously. Are you sure? She was the one that made that aging potion not too long ago. She's also made a portal into a mirror version of my world, Stampy reminded them. I'm sure she'd be able to come up with something if given enough time. We don't have time right now, Impulse gutted. Campbell's getting ready for something big. Maybe he wanted to get the two of us out of the way so we wouldn't be able to help against the fight. Why? Squishy asked, tilting their head curiously. He and Gerald think we're some sort of head of some kind of... We're the head of some kind of resistance. Green lifted his chin. Keeping us away would supposedly weaken the group. Stabby shook his head. There's probably more to it than that. Campbell wanted me to make a machine that would stop everyone from fighting. But I feel like he'd use it against us the moment he had a chance. Impulse warned. I never saw in mind to know his real intentions, only that Julius wanted to do everything he can to help him. What kind of machine is it? Green asked him nervously. That I don't know. Impulse frowned. I don't know if he was just a ploy to get me to do what he wanted or not. Everything about what happened at that base was weird. I'm sure it'll make sense eventually, Stampy stated calmly. For now, we should wait for your friends to get here. I'll let Jem know to get to the school as soon as I can. Scar pulled out his communicator. We're not taking any chances, not when too many lives are at risk. No one argued with him. William walked with Vidi toward the stairs leading up to the music tower, while the others huddled in the main area, waiting. For what exactly, Impulse wasn't sure, but he wasn't able to leave his friends alone to fend for themselves if an ambush happened. No more than 10 minutes passed when the group sat down, Impulse sitting beside Green and Scar, and they heard a door open and closed. Footsteps came from the front entrance, William coming to attention. He'd returned from the music tower after getting busy upstairs, probably to rest. The beaver relaxed when he saw something Impulse couldn't see at first. A moment later, 3 people walked into the room from the storage room. Blake! Impulse scrambled to his feet, running to his escort and tackling him into a hug. The young man laughed, returning the embrace. Good to see you in one piece. Blake pulled away, looking him up and down before looking over at the other 2 hermits. How are you 2? I'm doing better, Green admitted, getting to his feet as well. The regen healed me of the cuts anyway. The burns don't hurt anymore. Gated Tens shaking his head. Next time, Ryan, don't push your friends into portals without me. Green smiled sheepishly. Sorry, it won't happen again, I promise. It's good to see you 3 made it here safely, Sam said calmly. Yeah, without a hitch. Caleb nodded. The others are at the school now, I can confirm. Matthias kind of wanted us to come along too. According to some reports, there are a lot of base camps popping around the place. How many? Deppy asked warily. More than a few, Caleb frowned. Seems like Campbell is putting everyone into this mission. Everything into this mission. That would make sense. But why? Pulse asked. Why does Campbell want to attack school? He's accusing Rose of taking everything from him, Sam said with a frown. My aunt ran across him many years ago after his town was attacked and offered to take his kid to school to keep them safe. He did, but the kid went on a mission one day and never came back. Oh, Kriya swallowed, nodding. So he wanted to take everything from her then. Seems like it, Sam replied, looking at the 3 protectors. Cabot also rescued Julius from the police station where they were keeping him. Lovely, Kate sighed, shaking his head. So we're being summoned to go help, Scar asked curiously. Matthias wants all hands on deck, pretty much, Caden replied. It's going to be big. Impulse noticed Green looking at you? Probably just me. Impulse noticed Green looking at his feet when the escort said this, walking over to his friend's side. He rested his hand on his friend's shoulder to reassure him. Green looked up at him and smiled. Then we shouldn't keep him waiting, Squishy replied confidently, looking over at Impulse. Do you know when they'll be attacking? Soon, Caleb replied blandly. Either tonight or tomorrow morning. Great, Impulse sighed, looking down at his feet. You don't have to come, Blake reminded him. Tango's currently at Doc's to help him with some gadgets. You could join them. I want to help, though, Impulse insisted. This started all because Campbell wanted my help with something. I need to be there to finish it. Blake smiled and nodded. What about you 2? Green? Scar? I'm going. Green rolled his shoulders back. I'm good at making traps and strategizing a plan. I'm going too, Scar piped up, pulling out his bow. You won't stand a chance with Hot Guy on your side. Hot Guy? Squid, she asked, moving a smile. It's settled then. Cadence and it took control. We should prepare and be there before sundown. You can find some iron or diamond in the chest if you want armor, tools, or weapon. Stappy offered, pointing to the storage room. Take anything you need. Really? Green's eyes sparkled with intrigue. Stampy smiled and nodded. I don't mind. Green didn't hesitate, bolting for the storage room. Impulse couldn't help but let a smile creep onto his face. Seeing this Hello there, Airplane. Seeing the spark of excitement and joy on his friend's face, even for a moment, was enough. They would be ready. Do you have an enchantment set up by any chance? Scar asked hopefully. Yes, but it's not really accessible to you at the moment, Stampy admitted, apologetically. I can take care of any enchanting you need, Scar, Impulse offered. Thank you, Impulse, Scar grinned. Green came back a moment later, arms full of diamonds, tools, armor, and weapons. Do you want to make one for everyone or just us? Impulse asked Hermit. I'm thinking of making as many as we can, Green said matter-of-factly. Not just for the group here. Not a problem, Impulse nodded. Crafting table is in my room. Stampy pointed to two doors before walking inside. Or you can use the stuff in the crafting furnace room. Thanks, Green called back before smiling. This place is amazing, Impulse laughed, picking up a few items. Blake, can you come with me to help enchant stuff? I can show you the way, Squishy suggested. Thurman nodded, following the duckling. Blake not too far behind. He already felt less tense, knowing his protector was there. He was safe, even if someone decided to portal in. They had a plan, or at least somewhat of a plan. He knew they could... Oh. Hello there, sunshine. Jump the fool. Impulse landed on the ground in front of the hidden portal, the light of the portal illuminating the area around them. Dusk filled the evening sky, the sun disappearing from the horizon. He looked up, seeing some stars twinkle to life. Everyone here? Sam asked, Impulse tightening the straps on his elytra wings. Yeah, we're here, Green replied, wearing enchanted diamond pants and boots. The purple gleam made the armor appear to glow in the falling light. Caleb landed next to the hermit, looking up as Scar landed beside him, stumbling as the boy caught him. Seems like it's to fly, Scar giggled as the boy swept him off his feet. That's good, Caleb smiled before nodding at Sam. Sure enough, everyone was in the clearing. So how are we going to do this? Stampy asked curiously, looking over at the portal. 2 by 2, Sam replied. Apart from me, you and Squishy. Stay with your escorts as you cross through. Seems fair, Blake replied, grabbing onto Impulse's hand. You ready? Does it look like I have any other choice? Impulse mused to the boy. Sam walked over to the portal, putting in some coordinates as it flashed. Impulse squeezed the young man's hand, stepping forward. We'll go first. Okay, Sam nodded. If there's trouble, come right back. Yes, sir, Blake smiled. The two of them stepped through the portal, light enveloping them. Impulse walked out the other side, seeing tall spruce trees around them. The area was dark, the sky now a midnight blue. Stars glowed in the sky, peeking through the tree branches. Torchlight flowed on the grass below, hanging on trees. There didn't seem to be any sign of life, not even a growl of the undead, or the hiss of a spider. Are we clear? Impulse whispered, seeing the boys scan the landscape warily. The portal glowed brighter behind them as Green and Caden walked through. Caleb came through a moment later, carrying Scar in his arms. Everything's so quiet. Green looked around the area warily. I see smoke over there. Yeah, that's probably a camp, Blake warned, spotting where... I don't think Korea's that young. I heard I pointed. This place isn't safe. There's still a good chance they could be watching this area. Is he got to fly? Caleb asked, an expression of uncertainty in his eyes. The group walked away from the portal while Sam, Stampy, and Squishy stepped through. I'm trying to figure that out, Blake frowned, looking up into the tree line. I think it should be okay, Sam replied, listening to the area. Stampy, what do you think? I don't hear anything potentially dangerous. Stampy looked around before shaking his head. No one's here. We're safe. They could be watching the perimeter, Gaydon warned, taking his rockets. Stay close to your charges. All protectors nodded, everyone pulling out their rockets as Caleb lowered Scar, letting him lean on him. They lifted off, Impulse flying high above the trees. Blake not far from him, following Sam's lead, who no doubt knew where he was going. Impulse looked down the trees below, half expecting to see someone there, watching them, or even coming after them. There was silence. The group dared not say anything, avoiding any clearing before coming up to the 3-story tall building. There are so many people down there, Green pointed out, shooting another rocket as he lifted himself higher. Those are my aunt's recruits, I presume, Sam noted calmly. She's got everyone she can fortify the base. That's good, Pulse replied, seeing a spot to land by the front door. How does that sound? Probably best if you get inside, Sam agreed. I'll go over there and see if Leo can give me a report. He pointed to the door farther to the right. I'll come with you, Stampy insisted simply. Are you sure? Squishy warned. We don't want anyone to see you. We're all on the same page. Stampy frowned. If they don't like me here, that's their problem, not mine. I'm here to help my friends. I want them to see that. The group split off, Impulse landing on at the front entrance. Blake beside him and the other 2 hermits arrived as well. Green walked over to Caleb, taking Scar from him as the boy pulled out from the wheelchair, setting it up. How accessible is this place? Impulse asked Scar. Yes, look very. At least not for someone like Scar. A lot can happen in a year, Scar said confidently, sliding into the wheelchair, strapping himself in. Impulse pulled the door, looking up to catch a few people looking at them. The expression looked more curious than wary or threatening. Scar rolled into the school, followed by the 2 other hermits. Good, you made it, a voice said from another room. Impulse looked over, hearing Green's gasp in surprise as someone fucked it. The name's Tony, the man replied. He was tall and wearing a camouflage uniform. We've been doing a lot of preparations for the coming attack. Your friends are upstairs on the 3rd floor. Thanks, Tony, Caleb replied brightly, before adjusting the Scar. You have any way of getting him up there on his own? As a matter of fact, I do. Tony nodded, gesturing for them to follow. Beat-ups heard you guys were coming, so he and a couple of older kids worked on a lift for Scar. Or anyone else who might need it in the future. That's so kind of you, Scar grinned, following the man before looking back. Green and Impulse, you go ahead. I'll meet you out there. Are you sure you don't want us to come with you? Green asked hopefully, looking at Tony, with both suspicion and curiosity. It'll be fine, Scar nodded. Not like someone would appear out of nowhere through a portal and snatch me away. Green nodded. You don't know that. There is no way for them to know exactly where to be, Tony assured the hermit. Besides, Caleb and I would be there to intervene if they tried. Exactly! Scar exclaimed heavily. Don't worry about me. I'll be with you shortly. Impulse put a hand on Green's shoulder, the hermit looking up at him. Come on. The others are probably getting ready for bed. Green smiled, heading to the stairs as Impulse stored the lighter wings away, putting on his diamond chestplate, just in case, as he followed his friend. He knew Caden and Blake wouldn't be too far behind. Jump, Pearl, beat-ups! He made it to the top of the stairs first, as the door slammed open. Not all. Impulse appeared at the hallway a moment later, catching them, Jem waving at them from the doorway. Impulse waved back just as the wall near them separated. Caleb and Scar coming out. Tony stayed behind, waving at the group before it closed. The 3 hermits headed for where Jem had been in the room across from them, conversing with them. Impulse didn't mind, arriving at the door, seeing the room was fairly big, with 6 beds in a room. 5 of them were in close proximity to each other, while the 6th had a space big enough for a wheelchair to fit in. Come in, Beat-Up screamed, sitting on one of the beds, kicking its legs back and forth onto the floor. You made it, but just in time. How have things been? Impulse asked, walking into the room, getting tackled by Jem into a hug. What happened to you guys? Jem demanded, pulling away. We've been worried all about you for hours. Fine, see? Impulse smiled, gesturing the other 2 hermits coming in. Grant's almost healed from what Gerald did to him, and Scar got help. Jem's jaw set, looking over at Green. What did Gerald do? Green pulled back one of his sleeves of his new red jumper, showing her a few burn scars. He wanted me to help him by proving a point. If we hadn't come when you did, Impulse replied, Green would not be here right now. Jim nodded, looking at B-Dubs and Pearl. Pearl was leaning against the wall, twiddling her fingers. Nonchalantly. What about you, Impulse? I'm okay. The hermit smiled. Gerald's not happy with me, though. Jem tensed before letting out a sigh. We'll get him. We'll make sure he can't get out again. He's too dangerous to have running around. So are Campbell and Royster. Impulse frowned, taking a seat on one of the beds. There's still that unknown virus that kills the kids. Liam and Lizzie have been working hard on a cure. B-Dubs interjected with a knowing smile. I might have helped a little, like last time, but I'm not sure it'll make a difference. It might, if whatever you have can counter the effects, Impulse pointed out. B-Dubs shrugged and smiled. They'll figure it out. I hope so. Impulse nodded, looking down at the floor. So do you guys know what the plan is? The kids are safe, at least the young ones, B-Dubs shrugged. Lizzie told Stacy to take them to her secret bunker she'd built for some friends of hers. Some of the older kids volunteered to go with, just in case. That's good, Green sighed in relief, sitting next to Impulse. Less people were in danger, the better. Exactly, Pearl nodded. There's a lot of older ones who wanted to help, though. They've been helping Bubbles and I set up some stuff. They won't see it coming, B-Dubs grinned, seeming proud of himself. He looked out the window, which was obscured by a black curtain. We should get some sleep if we want to be ready for when they decide to show themselves. Impulse nodded. So we just defend the base? Yeah, pretty much, and not die. We chuckled nervously. Definitely not dying. We can do this. Jem snapped her fingers. All right, the blaze of firm confidence. No matter what happens, we have each other's backs. Yeah, Impulse smiled, looking up at her, then to the others. They can do this. They had to. Campbell wasn't giving them much of a choice in the matter, but they would make it count. How's everybody doing? Yep. Chapter 45. Impulse woke up to someone shaking him awake, groaning before opening his eyes. Green loomed over him, his face pale in the dim moonlight. Couldn't sleep? Green asked him quietly. Kind of. Green leaned back on the hermit as the hermit sat up. The nightmares happened again, except the hermit trailed off nervously. Impulse pulled his feet from the bed, planting them on the hardwood floor. He could see everyone else was sound asleep. He patted the spot next to him. What happened? Impulse frowned as the hermit sat down, letting out a defeated sigh. Green shook his head. Just remember that Campbell started the fire. A fire that destroyed everything. I woke up surrounded by flames, all alone. I heard him laughing. I heard people screaming. Tears filled the hermit's eyes. Impulse rested his hand on his back. I'm not doing this alone, Impulse replied. There are a lot of times I have to be reminded of that same thing. They're not so scary when we're together. I just feel like whatever's going to happen. Green's voice caught, shaking his head. The hermit wiped tears from his eyes with his sleeve. I don't know if we could stop it. I don't know. They could come at any minute and through the portals, and they need to know exactly where to be in order for it to work. Impulse replied. Like a visual. Why do you think the windows are scared? Green looked over at the black curtain window. They just opened like Julie did before. And without being spotted. Hermit reminded him. The clouds are smart enough to know to look up frequently now. Look at Julius is boasting. Green smiled. You really are a thorn in their side, aren't you? If they want to keep it secret, they shouldn't tell me, Impulse chuckled. I'll find a way to turn it against them one way or another. Green nodded, resting his head on the hermit's shoulder. I hope the dream isn't some kind of omen or anything. I have yet to see that happen, Impulse replied in a soft tone. I try not to worry about it, okay? Just focus on what's important, and that's stopping those men and capturing the heads if we can. Campbell, Royster, Gerald. Green sighed, looking down at the floor, pushing away from his friend. You're probably right. It just felt so real. I know it does, Impulse nodded. I've had plenty of nightmares in the past. It doesn't stop me, though. Not from what matters most to me. He looked at his friend in the eyes. I'm not losing another friend today. Green smiled quickly. Yeah, you got this. Impulse returned to smile, opening his mouth to agree when he heard a door slam open in the distance, a floor below them. Then another door slammed open, and several more. They were followed soon after with pounding feet. What's that? Impulse got to his feet nervously, going to the door. Maybe a bunch of teenagers having a late party? Green squeaked, getting to his feet as well. Just as the window exploded into shards of glass, Green screamed, diving behind the bed as everyone jolted awake. What just happened? Pearl asked quickly, spotting the window. Wide awake and alert. Why is the window broken? Green scooted over to where the shards had fallen, glimmering in the moonlight as the curtain fluttered. Someone threw a rock. Why? Impulse noticed the shadow of a couple objects hurtled toward the window. Green, move! Green scrambled back. 2 objects shattered where he'd been a moment earlier. 2 figures appeared as Impulse extended his sword, putting a hand on the doorknob. Gem, Pearl, and Beat-Up scrambled out of bed as well, extending their swords. I wouldn't be so hasty to fight, one of the men warned. They both looked unfamiliar. Not when you're outnumbered and surrounded. What do you mean? Green stammered, stumbling over to where Scar was, who was inching toward his wheelchair, trying to look inconspicuous. Well, we have a layout of the whole place, the man warned firmly. We know your secrets. We know everything. Campbell will burn this place to the ground. Impulse looked over at Green, who had a startled look on his face. Look of fear, horror, and fear. Impulse raised his sword. Not if we stop him first. Oh, I don't think you'll have much of a choice, YouTuber. The man smiled coldly, pulling his own sword. Surrender now, or you will burn along with this wretched place. Chapter 46. Impulse could hear faint sounds of shouting and screaming outside as he stood by the door. Should he bust it open? Would it matter? He heard feet stomping down the hall, hoping it was their escorts. Was he okay? Or had the men targeted them first? Got it, Scar's voice said with pleasant delight. Impulse looked over to see he was holding a gas blaster in his hand, retrieved from the wheelchair. Put the blaster down, Hermit. If you know what's best for you, the second man warned, holding a sword in one hand and a pearl in the other. That's the thing. I don't always know what's best for me. A gleam sparked in Scar's eyes as he added, aiming the blaster at the men. But I don't think we'll surrender or burn with this building. In fact, you won't be burning anything today. Oh, really? The second man raised an eyebrow. Just as the door behind Impulse yanked open, Impulse yelped as someone pushed him aside, lunging at one of the men. Impulse gasped, seeing Messiah launch out the window with the man. The second man jumping out of the way as Scar fired his blaster, which soared out the window, exploding into the sky. The man lunged toward the bed where Scar was sitting. Impulse spotted 3 other people running in. Green yelped in fear as Caleb pounced on the man, ripping him off the Hermit. Are you okay, G? Scar looked up at his friend, who had gotten to his feet, brushing himself off. Scar still holding the blaster. Put that away before you blow someone's head brains out with it. Put that away before you blow someone's brains out with it. Green hissed through his teeth, but he was smiling as he said it. Scar returned the blaster reluctantly, scooting himself into the chair. Green strapping him in. Go make sure the children are okay, Blake told the rest of the group quickly. We'll make sure no one follows you. You got it. Jim headed for the door, grabbing Impulse by his free arm and yanking him out with her. Once they were into the hall, she let him go, bolting for the stairs. I'll go down with Scar, Green called from the room, as Impulse ran after his friend. Pearl and Beat-Up was right behind him. He descended to the 2nd floor, hearing a yelp of pain and a string of bow vibrate. Thanks, Jim, a voice shouted down the hall. How is everyone? Are we all good? Jim lowered her bow, looking down at the men slumped at a young teenage boy's feet. The boy with an average height with messy blonde hair and dark brown eyes. Oh. Jason took care of the two guys in there. The boy pointed down the hall. I managed to lure this guy out, but I think some of the others are trapped. The doors were locked? Impulse frowned. Yeah. Yep. The guy used some locking mechanisms. The boy pouted. He's mining fatigue. Seriously? Green rolled his eyes. Overkill much? Don't worry. I think I can figure this out. Impulse nodded, hearing the sound of a small voice through one of the doors. Cover me if any more come. We will, Impy. Thrill nodded with a smile. Pulling out her sword once more, Impulse smiled, unlocking the door with ease after a few moments, opening it to reveal a couple of young girls. One of them was holding a pickaxe. Did you just? One of them looked at him in amazement. Technically, I made these gadgets, so I should know how it works, Impulse grinned. Thank you! The other girl beamed before looking over at the other doors. You'll get the others out, right? Speed-ups, can you get that door over there? Shouldn't be hard. Just flip that farthest switch, Impulse directed. Speed-ups ran to where he was pointing as he went to the last door, unlatching it as well. We probably should help the other downstairs, the boy in the hallway warned, as the kid came from down the hall. Shirt and pants, covered in blood. The boy didn't seem to have been harmed. Jason, what happened to you? Jason's bright hazel eyes gleamed, followed by a sheepish grin. The guys got a little rough. The portal is still open in there, so more can come through. You think I could make a TNT cannon and blow it up? Beat up the ass. Looked over at Impulse. Yeah! The other boy replied. Jason shook his head. Saying, what is with you and explosions? They're fun! They said matter of factly. Goodbye, before they get more recruits, Impulse said quickly. Otherwise, we might be in trouble. Jason, Zane, you can go with Impulse and beat-ups, Pearl stated firmly. The rest of you come with me. They'll meet us down. Yep. Impulse nodded matter of factly. Those guys down there will need all the help they can get. Be careful, Jem warned, looking directly at Impulse as she said it. The hermit nodded, following the boys into the room. They pointed out. Beat-ups and Impulse took no time at all to set up a small TNT launcher and send it through the portal. They didn't hear the explosion, but the portal flickered out moments later. We did it! Zane cheered with excitement. Impulse smiled at the boys' enthusiasm, watching the two of them run back into the hall. Impulse looked over at Beat-ups, who was grinning. Who knew blowing up portals would be so fun? The hermit mused. We should make a game out of it sometime. After all this is over, we can see if there's something to this. Impulse nodded, gesturing to the door, feeling a breeze wash over him. He looked, next to noticing open window, the curtains torn away, lying limply on the floor. He stared at the window for a long moment, contemplating whether or not someone has opened it to get in or get out. Impulse, come on! Beat-ups insisted, stopping at the door. The hermit shrugged it off, running after his friend, heading down the hall toward the stairs. It probably didn't matter anyway. And people would know. Come here! Yelling what I was weak. Oh! Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. Thank you. Chapter 47. Haley, Paisley, over here! The voice called as Impulse arrived down the stairs, noticing part of the wall was broken off. When did that happen? He didn't remember hearing an explosion. Impulse saw the two girls from earlier running towards another adult, no doubt one of the teachers, tackling one of the small groups attempting to attack. You could see Beat-ups jumping into the fray, helping Zane and Jason. Jem and Pearl weren't too far away either. Impulse, over here! A familiar voice called. He looked over to see Green outside, beside Scar, giving him a wave. The hermit ran across the debris, jumping over the fallen wall and arriving at his friend's side. The numbers are starting to thin now. I think the plan worked. Whose plan? Impulse asked. My plan, of course. Sam said from behind. Impulse yelped with surprise as the young man giggled. Sorry, I thought you saw me. It's fine. Impulse blushed in embarrassment. Where's Stampy and Squishy? What of happiness! A cry echoed across the valley. Impulse looked over to Squishy, see Squishy swooping down, grabbing one of the men, tossing him high above the tree line. Stampy dove down after them, doing the same, although the man smacked face first into a tree branch on his way down. You could hear the both of the birds to laughter before diving back down again, a couple more men dodging incoming arrows as they did so. They're fine, said Muse with a smile. Impulse looked back. That kind of looks fun, Impulse chuckled, seeing the chaos around them. It does. Green frowned, looking into the sky. You think Julius will be here? Julius? No, not in this condition. Sam shook his head. I spotted Gerald darting around the corner a few minutes ago. That's why I came to you two. You don't need to protect us. Green blushed with a giggle. Just wanted to make sure you two were okay. Sam smiled. Besides, my brother does need help with something. If you find anyone injured, bring them over there. He pointed. I've been doing my best to help when I can. The kids and teachers have done most of the work already. Liam was smart, Scar grinned. He knew something like this could happen. Sam shrugged. Maybe not intentionally, but yeah. Teaching the kids how to fight definitely does help. It's security. His head whipped around when he heard a cry of pain. I gotta go see what that is. Be careful. I haven't seen Rice Stewart Campbell yet. They could be here. We'll do our best. Green gave him a reassuring smile, which wavered when the boy looked away. Scar, keep guard at the door. Make sure only friends come through it. Impulse and I will look for anyone who needs help. Yes, sir. Scar grinned, pulling out his belt. You don't have to tell me twice. Green giggled, wishing both of them luck before disappearing into the fray. Pulling out his own sword, wearing diamond chestplate and helmet now. Impulse pulled out his helmet, donning it on as well. See you in a bit. Scar gave him a wave, rolling toward the door as the hermit ran around the corner of the base. Catching sight of Isaac and Caleb in the mix, with a couple of Campbell's men. Need a hand? Impulse called out, pulling out a sword. We got it, Isaac assured him. Question is, where are your friends? Scar's at the medical center door, Impulse pointed out behind him. Beat up this was a couple of kids last I checked. Where's Blake? He went looking for you, Caleb replied. He spotted Gerald coming into a window before disappearing with an invisibility potion. Impulse swallowed. What's Gerald looking for? It's me, Isaac knocked one of the men unconscious. Campbell wants any of an all traitors dead. The man scoffed, glaring about the hermit. That includes me. That includes you. Impulse gulped. Caleb knocked the man on the ground, putting a foot on him. You helped him by building the portal machine, the man grunted, trying to shove the boy off him. Then you broke your promises. You get what you deserve. He's not a traitor, Caleb snapped firmly. How do you know? He told me he'd end all of this if you just helped him. The man smiled. Royster told me he wanted to build something so both sides would have to comply. Impulse narrowed his eyes. I refused. I made no such promises in helping him, especially not after he broke his side of the promise. He never made a promise, the man smiled wickedly. There lies the problem. Impulse walked over to the men. You helped us. You gave us what we needed to break into this blasted place, and now you'll help us burn this place to the ground. Their blood will be on your hands, the man cackled. Caleb kicked him, and the man groaned, passing out. Sorry about that, Caleb frowned, looking back to where Impulse had come. I should probably stick with Scar, not that he can't handle himself. Impulse chuckled. I don't think he'll mind. It's your job to protect him, whether he needs it or not. The boy grinned, nodding. Stay close to Isaac until you find Blake. Got it? Yes, sir, Impulse smiled, looking over at the young boy, who looked sheepish. So what's the play, Captain? Isaac asked. Sam wanted us to find anyone who was hurt and bring them back to the medical center, Impulse reported. Then let's not delay, Isaac's eyes gleamed with excitement. Impulse! A voice called from behind as Impulse turned, seeing Jem running towards him. Where's Grant? He went off to help anyone who needed it. Impulse frowned. Why? No one's seen him anywhere. She looked nervously over at her shoulder. Scar's getting nervous, too. Impulse nodded, looking over at Isaac. We need to find him, especially if Gerald's running around. Isaac didn't say anything. leaving the unconscious men on the ground. Impulse ran back toward the school, where the Scar was stationed, a trickle of dread starting to prick at his heart, as if urging him to pay attention. Chapter 48. Let us continue. The three of them made it back to where Scar was waiting, with Caleb. Sure enough, Impulse could see his friend was getting nervous, looking around the area as if looking for something. Someone. There you are, Impulse. Scar's eyes brightened a little when he spotted him. Have you seen Green anywhere by any chance? Not since we split up, Impulse pointed out. A sour taste formed in his mouth. I'm sure he's fine. Scar looked down at the grass below. Something tells me otherwise. Don't you feel it? Impulse hesitated, reaching a mental hand toward the link with Green, feeling something as a shock of fear ricocheted through his body. The hermit gasped. Impulse? Jim frowned, putting a hand on his shoulder. Okay. Impulse sighed, shaking his head. Stopping you from running off and finding him, Scar? Scar smiled sadly. I was waiting for you two to come by. Strength in numbers, you know? I'm not as good as fighter as you. Like you. Won't let anything happen to you, Caleb said matter-of-factly, looking over at Isaac. You should go find Beat-Ups and Blake. Tell Blake to find us. Yes, sir. Hello, airplane. Goodbye, airplane. Weird noise. Yes, sir. Isaac nodded, looking over at the hermits. Be careful, okay? I don't want to lose anyone else to speak. Impulse bit his bottom lip, trying to smile. We'll try. Isaac smiled, running into the crowd, disappearing from view. Impulse putting a finger to the hilt of his sword. The fear had grown, like a trap that was closing in, walls caving around him. He felt trapped. Alone. We're coming, Green. Impulse transmitted through the link, trying to reach deeper for the hermit's mental hand. Scar, over here! Squishy's voice shouted from within the crowd, as the hermits turned their heads. Squishy appeared from the thinning crowd, a look of determination in her ocean blue eyes. Darby saw Grandpa being dragged away by someone over this way. When was this? Scar Josh said. Not long, Squishy replied. He's going over there to check it out. We needed backup. Did you see who it was? Impulse asked wearily. Squishy shook their head. No, they were too far away. We only saw your friend. Come on, let's go, Jem said matter-of-factly. Squishy nodded in agreement as the three hermits and Caleb followed them through the crowd. Soon the group passed the mass of bodies and battles as they arrived at the edge of the woods. The feeling of dread grew stronger as he looked over at Scar. So this is what it feels like, Impulse showed his friend simply. Scar nodded his head solemnly. It's not a fun feeling, Scar admitted sheepishly, rolling up next to him. Shh, Jem. Squishy hushed the two of them. Listen, do you hear that? Impulse crept a little closer, not hearing anything at first, only the sound of shouts behind them. Then he heard it, a cry of pain. Sounded close. What are they doing over there? You can't protect him. Not when I had the advantage, Cat. A familiar voice said darkly. Gerald, Caleb said in a low voice. So that's where he went. Let him go, Stampy's voice was stern and matter-of-fact. We could talk about this. You sounded a lot like Rose, the man snickered. Always wanting change, always wanting peace. It's far too late for that, Stampy. You should know that. Every day of your life is filled with fear of what might come for you. Who might come for you? You can't run from her. Fighting to counter fighting only creates more fighting, Stampy said defiantly. It only leads to more pain, suffering and pain. Do you really want that, Gerald? You really think hurting people will heal you? You know nothing, the man snapped angrily. A scream tore through the trees as the group crept closer. Impulse tightened his grip on his hilt of the sword. Part of him wanted to charge in and tear Gerald down. I'm fighting for the good of all worlds, for the good of our people. Yet you watch as the world around you burns, Stampy noted. As your people lose their homes, livelihoods, and families, forcing them to run for their lives. People deserved it for aiding YouTubers, the man sneered. Impulse now able to see the scene a little better. Green was lying on his side, clutching something strapped to his forehead. He noticed some sparks from the headband as the hermit touched. Did these children deserve it? Stampy raised an eyebrow, standing in front of Green defensively. Gerald was about 20 feet away, wearing his own headband. Jim, do you have a chip on you? Impulse whispered to her, meeting her gaze. Yeah, I think it's in the metal box. Jim nodded sullenly, understanding, filling her eyes as she smiled. I'm going to try something, Impulse said quietly. You guys cover me. You can't see me. Jim nodded, looking over at Squishy, Scar, and Caleb. Station yourself so you can see when it's ready. So we can see you when he's ready. When it's ready. Impulse hid behind a tree, leaning against a trunk as he closed his eyes, reaching to Green's link. Green, grab my hand. It hurts. Green moaned. His thoughts sounded faint. I know. Impulse agreed. Let me help you. Trust me. He felt Green take his hand, holding him tight. Impulse pulled him closer, feeling the pain and agony fill his body like fire. He could see fire all around him. He felt trapped, unable to call for help. I'm here. You're not alone, Impulse whispered into his mind. Wait! Gerald hesitated, the hermit freezing before Impulse swallowed, hearing another scream of pain. I know you're out here somewhere, Impulse. You can't stop me. Maybe he doesn't have to, Squish said defiantly, stepping out from the shadows to his left. Their yellow feathers seemed to glow brightly in the torchlight. Let him go. Impulse imagined a shield around the two of them, a strong fortress to keep the fire away. He heard Green's frightened thoughts, trying to reassure him with thoughts of calm and peace. Do you think you can blast him like you did with Julius? Green asked hopefully. He's expecting that, especially now that he said it, Impulse pointed out. That's right, Impulse, Gerald mused as the other three people appeared. Scar held his gas blaster with one hand, aiming it at the man. Jem held out her bow as well, keeping her eye on Green, who had managed to sit up. I would suggest you drop your weapons. Remember, it only takes one thought, and I could kill him. Impulse fortified the shield as a wave of flame washed over his mind. He heard Green scream mentally, looking behind the trunk to meet eyes with the hermit. They looked relieved and grateful. I'm not doing this alone, Green groaned, stumbling to his feet, standing beside the cat as he did so. You won't break me that easily. Perhaps my goal was never to break you, Green, Gerald said simply, looking around the trees. Impulse ducked behind the trunk, shiver running through his spine. You can't keep up that mental shield forever, Hermit! Show yourself, or you'll watch as I kill everyone here, one by one. I know you're not a coward. Leave him alone, Jem said firmly. You're outnumbered and outmatched. Even with the headband. Surrender, or there will be consequences. What, locking me up for eternity? Gerald mused with a chuckle. You know Julius wished he could be here to see his enemies fall, to see his own failure burned to the ground. You're not burning anything today, Gerald, Scar said defiantly. I'm not afraid to shoot again. Even after those scars I gave you, the man mused, looking over at the cat. He added, you should know very well how significant and important scars can be. You gave me mine, after all. Sign of your true character. Even when you were terrified of me. I'm not scared of you. Stampy straightened, his green eyes gleaming with determination. Perhaps not, Gerald replied. But you should be. You'll get what you want. We'll get what we want eventually. Suddenly, Impulse heard a click, followed by something clattering to the ground. His free paw to the man to see. Don't think you can be so clever around me. Stampy, look out! Squishy warned. The cat pushed Green out of the way as Gerald charged toward them. Squishy jumped to intervene, followed by Caleb, forcing Gerald to hang back. All I did was give him what he needed, Stampy said matter-of-factly. How come I didn't hear his thoughts? Gerald snapped. Scar taught me a thing or two, Green replied simply. I led you to think Impulse would try to blast you while redirecting into something else. Come and move. He looked over at Scar, who was beaming. Plus, Impulse shield help. Unbelievable, Gerald scowled. Standing straighter, Impulse now noticing the man's wings. His eyes moved behind the YouTuber, but finally spotting the hermit. Impulse slunk behind the trunk, but he knew it was already too late. He heard a deep chuckle. Looks like I have to go now. Don't! Jem shouted as Impulse heard a glass shatter to his left as he yelped, bolting to his right as the man appeared a moment later. Impulse, run! Oh, he won't be coming anywhere. Gerald sneered, as his dark gray eyes narrowing at the hermit. Impulse turned to run, gasping as he was lifted off his feet, flying to the night sky above. Impulse! Jem screamed as rockets launched from below. Impulse looked down, seeing Jem, Squishy, and Caleb not too far behind them. Impulse squirmed, the wind ripping past his ears, as Gerald launched them higher and higher until the ground disappeared below. Chapter 49. Impulse struggled against the man, holding him tightly, unable to loosen the man's grip. Gerald only chuckled, keeping his grip firm. Haven't tried, Impulse. Not unless you want to fall. My friends will catch me, Impulse said sternly. Gerald smiled, his white teeth gleaming in the moonlight. Such faith in your friends, I see. I thought you'd be so lucky a second time. There's no water below to save you if they fail. What do you want, Gerald? Impulse demanded. Have sent a simple quest by Theodore. Gerald smiled simply. After you failed to help us, he wanted some consequences for your lack of loyalty. I told him I'd never help him, Impulse scowled. What part of that did he not understand? Gerald shook his head. He's like Mr. Egg, in a way. You can't take no for an answer. Clearly you can't either, Impulse narrowed his eyes. The man smiled again. I will do what it takes. Those who have hurt me. He glared at the hermit. You're too dangerous to be kept alive. Impulse gulped, hearing rockets below as his friends caught up with them. Gerald, let him go! Caleb shouted defiantly. Shouldn't you be down there protecting your charge? Gerald asked plainly, slowing, but keeping an eye on the group. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to him on your watch, wouldn't it? Gerald! Jem hollered at the man, her green eyes ablaze with fury. Don't do this! I'm only here to fulfill orders. The man pulled something out of his pockets after dropping the rockets, the metal of an iron dagger gleaming in the moonlight. It's more than that, isn't it? Impulse said matter-of-factly. You don't care about Camp Eld or Royster. You just care about doing what you can to hurt people. We will rebel the world after this, Gerald smiled simply. After we destroy your kind and strip away your power, your influence over us, we don't need you anymore. We could work together. We could bring what the worlds need. Squishy offered, although begrudgingly. We're all fighting for the same thing. We all want to live peacefully together. You know nothing, duckling, Gerald snapped. There are too many people your kind has hurt, destroyed. There are no winners anymore. Those who hurt you are already gone, Squishy replied. Why are you still fighting for revenge? Why can't you admit your pain and move on? You're starting to sound a lot like Scar, Gerald sneered, yelping as a pearl smacked him in the chest, shattering as Jem tackled the man mid-air, making him drop the dagger. The man let go of the hermit as Impulse screamed, feeling himself starting to plummet. No! Jem screamed as Caleb dove down, Impulse meeting the boy's eyes as the boy fired a rocket, swooping below him before catching him. Impulse gasped in horror, giving the boy a hug, not wanting to let go. Thank you, he stammered, his heart racing in his chest, as he looked up, seeing Gerald toss Jem off. She plummeted a few feet before catching herself. Get him down with the others, Squishy commanded Caleb. Make sure they get somewhere safe. We'll be right with you. I don't think that'll be happening, Gerald growled, lunging toward Caleb and the hermit. The boy dove out of the way as Jem and Squishy tore after the man. Impulse closed his eyes, hearing the wind scream in his ears as they flew. He didn't want to see where Gerald was, didn't want to know what the man was doing. Caleb, over here! Scar's voice called from below. Impulse opened his eyes just as a ball of fire flew past them, hearing a scream from behind. Nice shot! Squishy gasped in praise. Impulse looked back, seeing Gerald plummeting to the earth, his chest consumed with flame, and the man screamed in agony. My pleasure, Scar mused, hoisting the gas blaster over his shoulder proudly. Hot guy on a whole new level. Green nudged him playfully with a grin. Now put that away, please. You're making me nervous. Fine. Scar sighed, grinning as he put away the blaster. Caleb landed on the ground not too far from the two hermits. helping the hermit stand. His legs felt like jelly, still shaking from what just happened. Impulse! Blake's voice said from beyond the trees. Impulse turned, seeing the two begin to appear. There you are, Sam mused with a smile, giving Stampy a hug, followed by Squishy. Freckly tackled him. I heard there was trouble, so I came to help. You could help with something, actually, Stampy reported, pointing to the heap not too far from them. Impulse gasped, seeing Gerald crumpled on the ground, badly burned, but he wasn't moving. Scar shot him out of the sky with a gas blaster. Sam whistled in amazement, walking over to the body, kneeling to check on him. He's alive, but no doubt in a lot of pain. So what are we going to do with him? Squishy asked warily, looking over at Stampy. We'll try our best to help him, the cat replied. A little kindness can go a long way. That killed your best friend. Impulse's eyes widened before he grinned. Stampy matched his grin. His attack killed many of my dogs, and I still forgave him. Stampy lifted his chin. Scar has a point. These men are hurt and suffering, just as much as we are. We should do what we can to help them, if given the opportunity. It's not what he would have done for us, but we're not him. Couldn't agree more, Scar replied happily, before glancing over his shoulder. We should get him back at the school before some of the other guys show up. Stampy nodded, walking over to pick up Gerald in his arms. The man groaned in pain, but didn't stir. Impulse followed his friends back to the school, unsure of what would follow. He could feel eyes watching him as they walked into the clearing. Most of Campbell's men had retreated. He didn't care though. Chapter 50. Another plane flies past. Sam opened the door for the cat, Stampy walking inside. Impulse and the others followed suit as the cat laid Gerald on a bed, heading to the nearby chest and opening it. Do you need any help? Jim offered, although reluctantly. Her eyes didn't leave the man lying on the bed, the man that had caused so much of their pain. Grab a towel if you would. The cat nodded over at a stack of folded towels. She went over, tossing him one as he pulled out a reach-in motion. Stampy poured the portion onto the towel before gently laying it over the man's chest. Gerald didn't stir, his face contorted in pain, but after a few moments, his face relaxed. I'm going to let my aunt know that we have Gerald, Sam replied, grabbing his communicator, heading to the other side of the room as the door opened. Liam stood at the door, surprised at what he saw. What's going on here? The boy asked curiously. Just doing a bit of kindness. Sam patted him on the shoulder. Gerald shouldn't be able to hurt anyone in this state for a while. Liam let out a sigh before smiling. All right, any other wounded we need to be aware of? Not sure yet, Sam replied, looking over at the hermits. We've got it taken care of here. Get some rest. Beat-ups and Isaac are already back at the room waiting for you, Blake said matter-of-factly, nodding his head toward the door from which the group had come. The door was still open as the cool night breeze swept in the room. We should probably find Pearl. Jem nodded, grabbing Impulse's arm, pulling him towards the door. Come on, I'm sure she's not far. The hermits and their escorts left the room, leaving Stampy and Squishy with the two boys as they searched for Pearl. They found her eventually helping one of the older girls out of the freshly made hole, pulling her up. Pearl! Jem waved to her friend. Pearl's teal eyes brightened, running to meet her friends. So how did everything go? Did we win? Pearl asked, her expression that of elated excitement. Her teal eyes looked the group over, checking for any injuries. We captured Gerald, Scar grinned triumphantly. You shot him out of the sky with one of Doc's toys, Koreans reminded him, his dark eyes gleaming. I have to get my hands on one of those. Impulse smiled. Pearl let out a giggle. How about anyone else? Can't about right idea where they are right now, Jem frowned. I thought they'd be here, but I haven't seen them. Suddenly Impulse felt a wave of dread crash into him as the thought crossed his mind. I can't. I won't. We need to find beat-ups, Impulse said firmly. Now. No one argued about his sternness as Impulse tore towards the front of the school, slamming open the door as he charged up for the stairs. Scar, Grian, go up the elevator. We'll see you there, Jem said quickly. I'll go with them, Caleb added, for protection. Grian giggled. I thought that was Kate's job. He's busy at the moment, Caleb smiled in amusement. Come on, you two. Impulse wasn't paying attention, already making it halfway up the first flight of stairs, feeling a wave of pain filled him. Beat-ups, I'm here. What's happening to him? Jem asked, glancing back over her shoulder to the other two hermits as the group pounded up the stairs. I don't know, just that he's in trouble. Impulse swallowed. And he's in a lot of pain. You know who's doing it? Pearl asked hopefully. Or is your mental link not strong enough? Impulse made it to the top of the second floor, hesitating for a moment, reaching through the link. He shook his head. Not anyone I know. So not Campbell or Reister, Pearl noted. Or Julius. Definitely isn't Julius. Impulse shook his head. He got pretty banged up during the rescue mission. Come on, Jem insisted, starting to climb up the third flight of stairs. Just as they heard the sound of pounding feet above them. Stop right there! A voice shouted from above. Jem yelped in surprise, ducking as an arrow whizzed over her head. Impulse ducked behind her, staring up at one of Campbell's men guarding the top of the stairwell. That was a warning. I won't miss next time. What are you doing to beat-ups? Impulse demanded firmly. The man smiled. I'm not doing anything, you dear. Just slowing it down. What do you want with him? Jem demanded, pulling out a shield as she raised it, daring to take a step further up the stairs. The man didn't waver. His cold, dark eyes narrowed at the four of them. Why should I tell you? The man sneered, knocking another arrow, aiming it at the group. Campbell's orders are simple, pretty much. We want info, and he's got what we need. He won't tell you, Impulse said defiantly, just as the muffled scream came from down the hallway, followed by a pained sob. Beat-ups! He pushed Jem aside, charging up the stairs as the man fired. Missing the hermit at Impulse dodged, lunging the man before he could fire again. They both fell to the ground as Impulse pushed himself away from the man. Getting to his feet, he spotted the door to the elevator opening. Impulse, behind you! Jem warned as the arrow whizzed over the hermit's head. Impulse yelped, seeing Caleb and Green running out with Scar rolling not too far behind. Long after. Cover me! Impulse insisted to the boy as Caleb nodded, charging forward as Impulse ran towards where he could hear the faint sound of sobbing. He slammed open the door, startling the man inside, who had been hovering over something, an iron dagger in the hand that gleamed purple. Beat-ups! That's interesting. The man mused to the whimpering figure underneath him. Impulse could see Isaac slumped in the corner. His right arm burned, and part of his sleeve had been ripped off. Your friends have come to save you after all. I'm telling you, Beat-ups groaned, attempting to move, rubbing one of his burns on the hardwood floor as he cried out in pain. You know he won't take no for an answer, the man said darkly, getting to his feet. I'll get back to you when I'm done with this one. Impulse, Beat-ups moaned, his stormy gray eyes filled with tears. I'm not sure that's a smart move. Impulse extended the sword, hearing rolling wheels behind him. I've got backup. You do not. That's all. The man raised an eyebrow before he smiled. Ah, so it is. Step away from our friend, Scar warned, his voice firm and strong, or I'll blast you like I did to Gerald. I'm not scared of you, the man sneered, grabbing Beat-ups by the shirt collar. Beat-ups whimpered, trying to yank the man's grip away. The man looked over at the hermits, meeting his eyes. If you don't die from your injuries, I'm sure the doctor would love to see you again. No, please, Beat-ups pleaded, as the man chuckled. All you have to do is tell me. The man looked back at the others watching. You know what he wants. I don't. Beat-ups coughed, tears lighting down his cheeks. I don't. You do. Why else would Rose trust you so much? The man snapped, glaring at the hermit. You know what he wants. He won't give it to you, Impulse said defiantly. Let him go and surrender, or Scar will fire. He's too close to Beat-ups. Beat-ups, Scar whispered hesitantly. I don't know if I can shoot him without risking hitting Beat-ups. The man smiled coldly. I don't think that will be wise. Here, how about this? You let the both of us go peacefully, and we'll leave you alone. His eyes looked at Impulse. You have to promise not to get in our way, and nothing will happen to your friend here. You know I can't promise that, Impulse snapped. The man grinned. I guess you don't care if I just take my leave. A pearl flew into the air above Impulse's head, shattering at the man's feet. Blake appeared a moment later, lunging at the man, who yelped, letting go of Beat-Ups, who fell to the floor. Impulse tossed the sword aside, charging toward his friend. Beat-Ups, Impulse whispered softly, pulling the hermit away from the fight. A Scar rolled up beside them, now holding his gas blaster, waiting in case the man tried anything. Need a hand? Caleb asked from the doorway. Impulse looked up, seeing Green, Gem, Pearl, and the boys standing at the door. Blake yelped as the man tossed him off him. Don't let him get away! Blake scrambled to his feet, running toward the man, who had leapt out the window. Caleb followed shortly behind, the two boys launching into the air, disappearing into the night. Beat-Ups! Trim gasped, her green eyes widening in horror as she fell to her knees beside the hermit, pulling out her medical box. Impulse gently lifted the hermit's head as Jim fed him some regen potion. You're not infected, are you? Green asked nervously, walking into the room. I think I would know. Impulse frowned. We're linked. We are? Beat-Ups groaned, looking up at his friend. Since when? Since Julius and his friends attacked us. Impulse swallowed, taking a towel that Jem had offered, soaked with water as he dabbed their burns. Hermit's forehead gingerly, and the hermit's forehead gingerly. When I was infected with that virus. Stop them. Beat-Up smiled weakly, his eyes softening as some of the pain lessened. They won't get away with this. Everyone's safe, Jem assured him, bandaging the burns. Pearl had gone over to Isaac, checking him over, pulling out a medical box of her own as well. Isaac opened his eyes in confusion, looking up at her before seeing the others. Gerald was captured and no one was badly hurt. Apart from Gerald, Scar mused, storing away his gas blaster. Once he was satisfied, no one was going to attack them. We should probably fix the window. I got it, Isaac groaned, using the wall to stand. Pearl came to his side, putting a hand on his shoulder. You will do no such thing, Pearl snapped as Isaac winced in pain. You need to rest. Grian, there should be an extra pain in the chest that you can you grab it? Green sprung into action, scrambling across the room as he opened the chest. Impulse helped Jem with the final touches, looking down at Beat-Ups, whose eyes had started to grow heavy. Get some rest, buddy. Impulse leaned closer, whispering into his ear. Need it. You teach me how to. Beat-Ups groaned before exhaustion took over him. Impulse smiled, patting his friend on his shoulder. Of course I will. SD1. Impulse carried Beat-Ups to a bed, laying his head carefully onto a pillow. The hermit's expression had softened as the Impulse wiped the blasted tears on his friend's face. Jem stood at his side, pulling the covers up to Beat-Ups' chin. You were crazy back there, Jem mused, nudging him gently. Beat-Ups was in trouble. I couldn't let... A lump formed in his throat. I couldn't let him get away with it. Remind me not to get in your way again, she smiled gently, resting her hand on his shoulder. I'm proud. Impulse nodded, feeling tears in his eyes as he heard rockets. Looking up as Blake and Caleb flew through the open window. He got away. Blake scowled, shaking his head, looking over to see Isaac sitting on one of the beds. You okay, Isaac? Not bad. Isaac gestured to his right arm, which Pearl had put into his sling. They came out of nowhere. I was just going to fix the window when you shook his head. Sorry. Don't apologize. You did great. Pearl rested her hand on his shoulder. You tried your best to protect Beat-Ups. That's all we could have asked for. Isaac nodded solemnly, looking over at where Beat-Ups was lying. She could have done better. So did I. So do I sometimes, Blake nodded, taking a seat next to him. We all have some moments. Those moments when we wish something could have been different. That's not our reality, though. You're here now, and we need your help. You did great. Thank you. Isaac smiled happily. How are you thanking me? If it weren't for you, it could have been much worse, Impulse pointed out. Thank you. The boy nodded, letting out a sigh. Guess I'm not taking first watch, then. Nope. Pearl grinned, squeezing his shoulder. You need rest. You don't have the healing factor like us, so you need time to heal. We all probably should get some sleep, Cream pointed out, securing the glass pane over the window. Impulse, do you think you can make a quick alarm system on this thing in case anyone tried to use it? Impulse stifled a yawn and nodded, pulling out his redstone box. Sure, it shouldn't take long. Thanks. Green nodded, meeting his eyes. And, thanks for saving me back there, too. Anything for a friend, Impulse sighed, for smiling. You and Stoppy make a great team. Green giggled. Yeah, I suppose you're right. We can always sleep in here, too, if it helps, Caleb offered. Pull up some sleeping bags, you know? I'm sure Katie and Matthias won't mind. Go for it, Scar grinned. We can have a sleepover party. Impulse chuckled, setting up the makeshift alarm system that would trigger if anyone tampered with the window. It was a simple design, but it would do the trick for what they needed. He could hear his friends starting to go to bed as he finished, standing up as he yawned. Tired? Jim asked, leaning against the headrest of beat-up's bed. It's been a long day, he sighed, looking over at where Green and Scar had climbed into bed. Hopefully we don't get any interruptions this time. Even if there are, you can count on us, Caleb said quietly from the floor. 3 sleeping bags were rolled out, one by the door, one by the window, and one by the far wall. It's our job, after all, to keep you and your friends safe. Yeah, Impulse nodded, shuffling over to his bed as he crawled in, pulling the covers over himself as he let sleep overtake him. Hello, aeroplane. Bye, aeroplane. I see you later, aeroplane. I am hungry. Chapter 52, the final chapter. For the story, anyway. A few weeks had passed since the attack, and everything at the school had gone back to normal. All the kids and teachers had returned, starting up classes again. Rose had stopped to pick up Gerald, promising that he wouldn't be able to get out as easily. Impulse had a suspicion that she might have had a talk with its dog, especially with how she looked at Impulse when she said it. The memory faded from his mind as he finished replacing the last of the broken pieces of the walls outside. There were soldiers patrolling the perimeter, led by Tony, who did his best to ensure that they would be safe here for as long as they needed. Impulse looked over his shoulder, seeing the start of a fence lining the woods around the school. The tall spruce trees cast a long shadow over the valley. How are things going here? Blake asked, approaching him from his left. Just finishing stuff up so that we can all get some sense of normalcy back. Enjoying it again. The boy smiled knowingly. When will I be able to return home? Impulse asked. Isaac's just about done needing to have the cast, right? Yes, but we'd be able to return regardless if his arm was in a sling or not, the boy confirmed. Isaac wouldn't let that slow us down. But Matthias is a little wary of going home yet. He is? Impulse frowned, stepping away from the wall. Does that have anything to do with Campbell? That's him, my uncle, the boy nodded. After Beat-Ups was attacked, he wants to make sure it's safe for all of us to go home. Impulse sighed, shaking his head. I just want to go back home and not have to worry about all of this anymore. Trust me, I do too, the boy put a hand on Impulse's shoulder. But we've got to be careful, not just for Beat-Ups or Green, but you too. Me? Impulse met the boy's eyes before nodding. Grandpa probably put a bounty on my head, didn't he? Not sure about that one, but I wouldn't be surprised. Blake right. But he picked your side, and he will retaliate however possible. A lump formed in the hermit's throat. Julia's nose tangle was the one who made the chip. Do you think Tyler isn't going to let him out of his sight? Blake said matter-of-factly. Besides, Tango is at Doc's place at the moment. He's safe. Impulse let out a sigh of relief. What about the other hermits? We've got a lot of friends. We'll figure this out, one step at a time. Blake gave the hermit a side hug. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, I promise. What would I do without you? Impulse asked with a smile. Blake smiled in return. Impulse, Blake! Jim's voice called from behind the two of them. Impulse turned around. What's wrong? Impulse asked quickly as Jim caught up with them. Her smile was gentle and bright. Nothing's wrong. Matthias gave us the all clear, she said excitedly. We're going home today. I can't wait, Impulse grinned, feeling the unease fade away. What are you planning to do when we get back? Pearl and I were thinking about hosting a picnic with all the other hermits. She beamed. Want to come? Of course I do, Impulse nodded, nudging her playfully. There better be soup there, and lots of it. Oh, there wouldn't be much of a picnic without soup, Pearl said triumphantly. It's your outdoor invisibility detectors. They'll need it. I'll keep that in mind, Impulse nodded, looking over toward the tree line, spotting Tony not too far away, disappearing from view a moment later before he smiled. We should get the others this time. Come on! Jem whooped, charging toward school, the others following right behind her. Impulse couldn't shake the smile off his face. They were going home. They would be able to see their friends again, even though it wouldn't be quite the same. Campbell and Royster were still out there, and he knew the cause and Beat-Ups had a lot of work to do yet before anyone would be able to feel truly safe again. Yeah, that is the end of this story, and yeah, we move on to the next one, which I don't know if it will be ready by Monday. We will see. I feel like I need to rewrite it a little bit. I'm not done with it even, so like, I don't know. I get to it when I get to it. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and yeah, come back for the next one, and yeah. I know this one was a little bit longer, but that's just what it was. I decided this is what I wanted to do, so I did it. And I guess I'm going to go grab something to eat and, yeah, hang out for a bit, maybe read a book, do some more writing, typical stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will turn on the fan. It's hot in here. Peace. Probably want it.